Oh, we miss you.
Greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, Robert Meyer Burnett. I invite you to watch and listen to the Designing Hollywood podcast, brought to you by Martika Ibarra and the great, legendary Hollywood costume designer, Marilyn Vance. I am afforded the wonderful opportunity of co-hosting the show. If you are interested in the magic of Hollywood, the design of Hollywood, the clothes of Hollywood, watch the Designing Hollywood podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts from, or find the video version on YouTube. That's right, the Designing Hollywood podcast. Why would you ever want to miss it? Especially if you love the movies. Well, greetings, imagination connoisseurs. Once again, it is I, your Duke of Dope Discourse, but also your Pharaoh of physical media, Robert Meyer Burnett. And this is, I won't sing it this morning because I have a guest and I don't want to embarrass them, but it is Let's Get Physical Media, episode 117. Can you imagine? 117 minutes. By the way, my guest, I can hear me on your end. It's coming through. Oh, it's gone now. That's good. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kind sirs, gentle folks, however you identify across the 28 known galaxies, I have a very special guest, Mr. Heath Holland, all the way from the Serial at Midnight channel. Heath, welcome to the show. It's so great to have you. I've been watching your channel for a long time. You and I, as we say on this channel, park our shuttlecraft in the same shuttle bay, as you can tell from your collection behind you. And I just wanted to say that because you're here, this episode is, I'm going to say, officially sponsored by Kino Lorber. Because why not? Kino Lorber hooks us both up, and you did an excellent interview with, of course, Greg Lemley and actor, director, producer Raphael Sabarge for their fantastic film, only in theaters, as we did, that was hooked up by Kino Lorber. I thank them for that, and it was fantastic. I thought your interview was great with them. And I just recently watched your review of the Empire box set, the video store box set that had like dolls, Stuart Gordon's dolls and robot jocks.
It's right here. Ooh. Oh, hold on. There we go. Ooh. So good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here. Thank you for the introduction. You did not want to hear yourself? You don't want to have like the echo coming through? I think that might be something cool that is like stereo. It's a new level of stereo.
There you go. I don't know how it fits as far as like a 5-point or 7-point or 9.1 system. I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't work, but it's all good. Good in the hood here. But it's great to have you. Listen, before we start, I told you I wanted to read, not the whole thing maybe, but I wanted to read the great Bill Hunt from the Digital Bits. I wanted to read his editorial, and we could opine on it as sort of an overarching theme for this show. So if you will indulge me for a moment, I'm going to read this editorial. Some thoughts, again, this comes from the Digital Bits and Bill Hunt, and he dropped this on August 2nd. Today's editorial is going to be brief because, frankly, some of us here at the Digital Bits have grown a bit frustrated at this point, disheartened by the state of things, as it were. So, too, we suspect have many of you, our dear readers and fans of physical media. But lately, after nearly 26 years of passionate advocacy for film, TV, and special edition content on disc, it's come to our attention that a couple of the major Hollywood studios don't seem to quite have that same passion for the subject anymore. One of these, let's call them Garner Brothers, just announced a long-awaited 4K Ultra HD catalog release with almost no special features. Certainly no newly created special features because the studio doesn't seem to do many of those anymore, and almost no special features on the actual discs, which is where disc fans tend to prefer them. Instead, most of this title's special features are included as digital extras only. Nor does this title include the most obvious extra that fans have been wanting for years, which is the uncut 81-minute festival version of a certain making-of documentary about this film. Why? Honestly, we're not sure that there's many people left at this studio who even know that it exists. or why fans might care about it. And if there is, that person should definitely be given a bigger role in making these decisions. Now, all of this is particularly frustrating because if you pre-order the same title on 4K UHD in the United Kingdom, you do get those extras on disc. What's more, you get a couple of different deluxe packaging options with swag in the UK, both of them terrific. Whereas here in the States, the packaging's artwork simply makes fans of this film weep. Curated, as it seems to have been, by an intern and novice Photoshop user for reasons unknown, rather than using the film's already existing poster or production art, which again is kind of the thing that this studio's best customers would actually prefer. And it should be noted that all of this comes in the wake of this same studio having released at least 3 other major 4K Ultra HD catalog titles this year with significant audio and quality control errors. Not to mention an important and long-awaited Blu-ray animated title, which obvious video compression issues. And when Garner Brothers was informed of all of these issues, rather than correcting them and making their best customers whole with fixed discs, the studio seems simply to have stopped responding to inquiries about it. Will any of these issues ever be fixed? Our suspicion is that some of them might eventually be, so that if you buy these same titles again, say in a year, the issues will simply no longer be there, maybe. But none of this is particularly encouraging to Garner Brothers' best customers. You know, the people who actually pre-order these discs, rush out to buy them on street date, and know and love these titles best. So as not to lay all the grief at the feet of Garner Brothers, however, let's move on to another major Hollywood title, and we'll call this one Vault. You know what? I'm going to stop the editorial there because I want you to go to the digital bits, find this editorial, and read it. But Heath, I'm just going to say it. What Bill Hunt was talking about, I'm not going to mention the studio, Garner Brothers, their real name, but we can talk about the movie that Bill Hunt was talking about, which is my favorite horror film of all time, William Friedkin's The Exorcist. And I don't know what studio produced or made that in 1973 because I've only owned it on VHS, on Laserdisc, on DVD, on Blu-ray, and I'm going to own it on 4K soon, but not apparently the UK version that comes with the BFI book in it because I wasn't quick on the draw and it was already sold out by the time I wanted to get it. So let me ask you this. As somebody, obviously judging by the collection behind you, you're a passionate advocate and collector of all of this. Tell us, first of all, how did you get into physical media collecting and why do you think it's still important?
I go back 30 plus years with physical media. My family was one of the first people on our block in our neighborhood that had a Betamax player. So I grew up with physical media. And when I became old enough to buy my own, I started my own collection because even then I knew, 10, 11 years old, I knew that you want to have access to the things that you love and not have to go through someone. At the time, it was having to go through like a Blockbuster or a video store or something like that, or record it off a television. I wanted access to the stuff that I cared about. And here we are 3 decades later, and we've seen the rise and semi-fall of the DVD market, but we've also seen the birth of Blu-ray, the birth of the collector's market, now 4K. And there are so many of us who love the stuff that we are passionate about and want to have the best versions of it available with all the special features, with all of the story of the making of that movie. And up until very recently, that's what we were getting. The collector's market is being served like never before. But this article points out something that's really troubling that's been happening in the last couple of years. And as someone who's been collecting my movies for 30 years, going back to, I really started with VHS because that's what I could afford. So I guess I'm on my 5th version of movies now because, that's what, sidebar, when people complain about having to buy the same movie twice, I'm like, well, some of us have bought, people from your generation go even further back with, video discs and with laser discs and things like that. Like, you buy the same movie that you love over and over again. It's a troubling trend. That wasn't exactly your question. I've been here for a long time. I've been collecting because I love it and because I want to own. You know, I mean, we don't own it, but I want to have I want control over my media. And I don't know. I'm worried because these trends that are in the article are very real.
Well,
So
I think what's even more like what this article pointed out. Warner Brothers has a really rich history in home entertainment of creating really great special editions. You know, I go back and I look at some of the things that I've previously purchased in the past, both on Laserdisc and on DVD and Blu-ray, and Warner Brothers has done a fantastic job. Now, here's what I think. There is a mentality that's driven. We talk about this a lot in the entertainment business. This Wall Street mentality of corporate growth, constant growth. Every fiscal quarter, you have to show more money. Well, the entertainment business was never that way. What the entertainment business has what's happened is this mentality has been foisted upon the entertainment business, and they thought because streaming was bringing in a certain amount of money every month that studios never had before, like Disney Plus, suddenly you have a guaranteed, relatively guaranteed source of income coming into the studio every month, which that never happened before. The problem is, there's only so many households on Earth that are eventually going to subscribe to your streaming service. So eventually, what you should be looking for is a business that has stability. It's not going to have growth. It's going to be a stable amount every month. That's what you want. And when all the houses on Earth eventually get the streaming, I mean, you can expand now into different countries, but for the most part, it should be a business about stability, not about growth. Because if a business can stay stable, and theoretically a business like Disney should, because every new generation is going to watch their programming, every kid's going to grow up with classic Disney stuff, but they're not. They're looking for growth, which is a mistake. But here's what I find really distressing. So the studio's big assets are their libraries, their catalogs of movies. And now, if you're a storied studio like Warner Brothers, which is celebrating their 100th anniversary, and let me tell you, what a lackluster celebration it is. They have not been putting out. We're getting a few titles. Okay, great.
Enter the huge box sets with all those, like the 100th anniversary box sets, with like 25 movies in them. Like, come on.
I mean, but and what's even worse is Warner Brothers anniversary box sets with MGM titles that they've acquired, at least domestically. Which
raises the question: do they know the difference? Are
they
people
don't
making those?
Do you know who knows the difference? The Warner Brothers UK team. The Warner Brothers UK team, like, because of what happened with Ted Turner in the 80s, Warner Brothers acquired a certain number of MGM titles. Warner Brothers did not make The Wizard of Oz. Warner Brothers did not make 2001. Warner Brothers did not make Gone with the Wind. And now they've acquired them. And there's some people that say, well, they're part of the legacy too. I'm like, when you're celebrating the 100th anniversary of your studio, you don't get to bogart the movies of another studio. You just don't do that. And I understand how they can say that, and you can be like, well, part of Warner Brothers' history, Rob, is that they acquired some movies from MGM. Okay, but they didn't make them. You know, and if you wanna say, here's Warner Brothers' acquisition box set of all the MGM titles, I get why they would want to do that. But you know what's really interesting? I mean, Stanley Kubrick is one of my favorite directors, and Stanley Kubrick moving over to Warner Brothers after he made 2001 for MGM is really interesting. So when Kubrick left MGM and stayed with Warner Brothers, and people like John Calley at the studio protected Kubrick and allowed him to make at Warner Brothers A Clockwork Orange, Barry Lyndon, The Shining, Full Metal Jacket, and Eyes Wide Shut, that's a Warner Brothers story. And that's a story that should be celebrated. And hey, Warner Brothers, why don't you put out Barry Lyndon in 4K? Or at least have Criterion put it out and make it part of your, Criterion helps Warner Brothers celebrate their 100th anniversary. But, not to bag on people, but as Bill Hunt alluded to in his editorial, Warner Brothers has one of the smartest, most knowledgeable people as far as movies in the world. I mean, there's people like Robert Harris, the restoration expert, but at Warner Brothers, you have George Feltenstein. Now, George Feltenstein runs Warner Archive, which is fantastic. And Warner Archive has been crushing it for the 100th anniversary of Warner Brothers. But because you have the corporate culture where, like, if you're all working at the same studio, I would think that if you have somebody like George Feltenstein, your secret weapon, even though he might not run home video, he's there. Use the man. He'll if you have questions and you go steal all of his knowledge and take credit for his work, by all means. Tell your corporate minders that you put out all this great stuff and you made the studio millions of dollars. George, he'll be happy to let you do that. But go do it. You've got this incredible resource. You have, if you were Lex Luthor, you were Lex Luthor and you needed kryptonite to go kill Superman, Warner Brothers has that kryptonite. You could go, maybe this is a bad analogy. I shouldn't say that, but if you wanted to, you have a vast resource in a guy like George Feltenstein who used to work for MGM. And he was instrumental in the Laserdisc days. He was instrumental in the DVD days, and he literally knows, he lives and breathes movies. And the guy is perfectly happy to let you take all the credit in the world. But when you put out that Exorcist box set, it's one of the best Warner Brothers' most eagerly sought after titles. You're a horror fan. How excited are you to get a 4K version of Exorcist?
Yeah, well, less excited now that I know it's going to have, big holes in it, so.
I mean, how can they, but not in the UK?
That's so that's the thing, right? Can we mention, I know, are we sidestepping libel and slander here by the Garner brothers and all that stuff? That's what I'm kind of curious about.
No, I think that, no, because look, I think that we're not. I was just reading the article. I mean, the fact is, Warner Brothers used to be at the top of their game, and the problem is a lot of the people that ran home video, certainly I worked for Warner Brothers. In the aughts, I created a Superman Returns documentary. I produced the film The Hills Run Red that they put out under Warner Premiere, which is basically their direct-to-video division. And there used to be great executives at Disney, great executives at Warner Brothers. They all were let go because they had been there for a long time. So, but what they lose is all that institutional knowledge. So you have all these.
Can we mention that they fired George? I think this is public news. This was in Media Play News. So this was reported on. George Feltenstein was fired. He was let go from his position, and he renegotiated. He was able to retain his position as I don't remember exactly what they called it, but basically, go ahead.
Well, no, you're right, but that was under a different regime. That was under. Yes. I just want to point out AT&T. They were making changes, but here's what's so strange to me, and what I want to say about George. You're a movie studio, so you've started a streaming service, HBO or Max or whatever you want to call it. All that streaming service makes money based on what's on the streaming service. And George Feltenstein knows the entire 100-year history of Warner Brothers. I mean, the man literally knows where every element is, knows where every version, if there's a negative that's missing. There are stories, I won't bring them up here. There are movies that you would be surprised that have completely missing elements. The negative, no one knows where it is, for Oscar-winning films. And George knows that. And when they got rid of George Feltenstein, because everything that they're going to remaster is going to wind up on their streaming service. So you want to be able to make your movies and to be the best they can be, because you're going to be exploiting those assets for the next 100 years. And you need that institutional knowledge, because everything that you're going to put on streaming, that's what people are going to pay for 100 years from now. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have it done, and when you have somebody who works in the studio who wants nothing more than to put all this stuff out, use that person. Use all those people. There's all these people around, and by the way, they're not going to be here forever.
Let me ask you a question, because you've contributed features, as you just mentioned. How do you feel when a release comes out that drops something that you worked on, and you would want that, you're not the one holding it back, right? I think that's something that fans wonder sometimes. It's maybe the person that made it doesn't want it out or something like that.
No. So okay, I'll give you an example. The first disc that I produced along with my friend Carrie David, the first movie that I did on my own for my own company was The Usual Suspects back in 2001. So Usual Suspects was done for MGM, and I work really hard on it. I think those special features stand up even to this day. But there was a time for a little bit that Sony Columbia owned Usual Suspects. And then when it eventually came out on Blu-ray, they didn't do a new transfer of the film, and all of our special features, they didn't have the master tapes. They didn't know what was going on. I don't know if they couldn't find them or what. So the Usual Suspects came out twice on Blu-ray with no special features. All of our special, and we spent months doing those special features. And it was like, how is it that you guys didn't find our special features? The same was true on MGM. I did the special features along with Greg Carson and Dave Parker. Dave Parker also edited Usual Suspects. We did Valley Girl. Now, thank God for Shout and Scream Factory, because Shout came along and put out Valley Girl. BFI's putting out Valley Girl too in September. I think it's BFI, somebody, but Shout put out Valley Girl and Usual Suspects, and they found all of our special features 20 years later and put them out. Now, these documentaries, a lot of them, like we interviewed Frederick Forrest for Valley Girl. He's passed away. So you can't interview him again. Yeah. And that's happened a lot. Barnard Hughes, I made a feature-length documentary on the making of Tron that was on that 20th anniversary disc. A lot of the time, because HD didn't exist, they don't want to spend the money to upgrade those special features that are in standard def to HD. Even the special features have to be remastered, or they'll release either a DVD or a Blu-ray that has the old features on it with the disc, which means you don't get a new remastering of the movie. And it's really, really frustrating. The first thing I ever did for DVD was a piece for the DVD, the Fantasia Anthology. That was both Fantasia and Fantasia 2000. That was my first job. And I did a piece on Herman Schulteis, who did the actual, believe it or not, there's a lot of physical effects in Fantasia, even though it's animated, but it's rotoscoped. And that piece, because it was standard def, was then eliminated from Disney's future releases of Fantasia. So all of our special features sort of disappeared, because then they redid them with a lot more flash, where ours were more academic, in HD. So it's incredibly frustrating. And all this incredible information. How about the fact that I worked for years for Curdy Pellerin on the Lord of the Rings special features, the 10 hours per movie of the appendices, and when they put them out on 4K, they figured, people all have them. We don't need to put them out. They're in standard def anyway. Who cares? And it's like, well, okay, where are all those special features going to go? Are they just going to disappear into the ether in the next 20 years? Yeah. And then Warner Brothers did start putting out special features, just dropping them on YouTube, which is another way to go. But if you're a fan, the problem is the studios ultimately, the market share, it's all plummeting. And 25% less discs are being sold year after year after year. And it's going to become a niche market the way the Laserdisc market always was. But really, all of that remastering, all of those special features should all be on, whether they're standard def or not, all of that stuff should be on streaming services. Why is my feature-length Tron documentary not on Disney Plus? Because it's in standard def? Because people won't watch it? Nobody cares if something is an upscaled standard def thing. They want the information. You know, the Kino Lorber put out only in theaters on DVD, because DVD still sells. If someone said to me, well, Rob, this documentary is only on DVD, I wouldn't not watch it. I'd still watch it. The information and content is there. But right now, a movie like The Exorcist, 50 years later, the most storied horror film ever made, Academy Awards, you've got the Exorcist trilogy coming out from Blumhouse, and we get short shrifted in America, shortchanged in America. How come the British know? And that disc sold out in a day. There are 2,000 copy. You think people in America wouldn't buy if they put out 10,000 or 50,000 copies of that disc with the exact same stuff? It would have sold out. Does Warner Brothers not want a couple of $1,000,000 in their coffers in an afternoon?
Something that people have told me recently, because I've been covering these Warner Brothers releases that are lackluster. Okay, I have a review of Enter the Dragon that's coming out on 4K in a few days. I think Tuesday.
Yeah.
I've already recorded my review. It goes up for everybody tomorrow. But guess what? No Blu-ray, no special. Now it's got the two versions of the movie. It's got the theatrical and the special version, special edition version, and it's got the 2-minute introduction by Linda. That's it. A commentary too. It's carried over the commentary. All that's on the 4K. There were hours of special features produced for Enter the Dragon. There's a full-length documentary called The Curse of the Dragon. All that's on the Blu-ray that Warner Brothers has authored, has pressed, that exists. They don't include it. And I don't understand why, because even that allows them, if you want to just say as a company, okay, this disc cost us less than a dollar, let's throw it in, make it a combo pack. And at least we're paying service in some sort of passive way to the people that do want those special features without having to do anything. You don't have to do anything. There's no extra effort required for that other than including a Blu-ray. They're not even doing that. Some people are saying, well, they'll put the special in the article. Bill's article also mentions that some of those special features are ending up on the digital version, but they're not. Well, it's very hit or miss. Something I talked, Rio Bravo just came out on 4K from Warner Brothers. No bare bones, no commentary. That's it. And people are saying there are a lot of features. I think the Blu-ray has 2 hours of features. There's a documentary on Howard Hawks. They're not on the digital copy either. So these features are literally being lost. And people are telling me in the comments of my videos and different places, I'm ordering the UK version and having it imported to the United States. What are we to make of this? What does Warner Brothers make of this? Part of me wonders if Warner Brothers even knows what's going on, if they care what's going on. Is everybody, that article mentions everybody seems so afraid of, I don't remember how it's exactly worded. I don't think you got that far, but the people that are at the company still are so afraid of keeping their job that they're just trying to not to make waves at all. Is that what's happening?
I think, look, yes. Yeah, and here's the thing. They're hiring, and this is not, I don't mean to be disparaging against, because it comes down to our corporate culture. Our corporate culture, like so many other places, even Hollywood, is run, everyone is fearful because, honestly, they don't know their jobs. People are getting hired because they might have Ivy League business degrees, or even worse, they worked in marketing at Coca-Cola. So from a marketing perspective, you worked for these companies that have fuck all to do with movies. But they get hired to come to a studio and they get to work on product. All they can do is look at marketing reports. And they can look at marketing reports and see if they don't know the material, if they don't know Warner Brothers library, they wouldn't understand. And what's even worse is the people that are collecting discs are not the people that are necessarily that are going to be cited in a marketing report. And how I know that was back in 2002 when I was working on Tron. No one seemed to care for the 20th anniversary of Tron what special features were on that disc. Now, Michael Pellerin, who I'd worked for, made one of their beautiful white box sets that came in these white foil embossed boxes. They did like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which, by the way, still hasn't come out from Disney as a 4K release. Yeah. They did Tron, and I was told that, Rob, just do 10 or 15 minutes of featurette on Tron, because that's all we're going to do. And this was 2002, and I'm like, okay, the entire world is now video gamers, and everybody has seen Tron growing up over the last 20 years. To think that you shouldn't treat Tron as like some kind of an interesting title that not many people were excited about when it first came out, that has now become a legendary rite of passage for any person who's ever picked up a video game controller, is wrong. And I'm like, where do you get your information? And they're like, well, we polled mothers with children 5 and under, and we asked them how excited they were about Tron coming out for its 20th anniversary. And I'm like, I'm sure none of them knew what the fuck you were talking about. So why are you listening to this marketing data that already was deeply flawed because you're asking the wrong people the wrong questions? But it's corporations, so no, we did the research. They don't even know. The thing is, you've got these businesses like the entertainment business that only work. I mean, you can talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, all you want. It does not matter what a person's background is, what their shape, size, color, sexuality, religious beliefs are. I don't care. If you don't know the company and the product that you're working on, it does not matter. It has to be a place where people know their shit, or you're going to hire a bunch of people thinking, oh, look at who we've hired. And your business will fail because you've hired people that don't know what the fuck they're doing or what the product is that they're selling. This is what's happening in corporate America, not just in the studios, but across the board. And like you, the worst part is you have these people at the studios, but because they've been there for a while, they're expensive. Let's get rid of them. And it's like, think about the product you are selling. And if you have people that don't know anything about your product, meaning your entire 100-year legacy of films that you've made and have been selling for the last 100 years, why are you hiring them? Because they're doing things like with Warner Brothers physical media output, the Superman discs, all the people that have worked on things that have been fucked up, they're fucked up and they don't even know they're fucked up. There's QC, there's all kinds of levels of QC before this stuff. I put out Tango Shalom, this movie I produced and edited. I was the post supervisor. I went through QC. QC found things like, hey, there's the bottom of a C stand. I edited this movie. I'd seen it a million times and I didn't know it was there. QC caught it. And I went back and said, God damn it, you guys are right. I work with QC to get it perfect. Because when it's going to Germany and going to Japan, I don't want somebody coming back and saying that if there's a problem, that's on me. That's my fault. And I was my own boss, but I would have fired myself if I let something go out and it was fucked up and it came back. That's a firing offense. You're gone. You have one job. And that's where we're at. And the studios have to and now they won't even fix anything. So what's even worse is the studio expects their own customers to buy substandard shit and keep it. You know, companies like Vinegar Syndrome, they realize there's echo and a surround channel on Showgirls. Before anybody really says anything, or maybe a few people do, they're like, you know what? There's a problem here. We're going to fix it. And everybody who's bought it directly from us, we're going to send you the disc. We haven't got that disc yet, or I haven't got mine, but they copped to it. They fixed it within a couple of days. That's how businesses should be run. You have The Exorcist coming out, one of the greatest horror films ever made, from William Academy Award-winning Billy Hurricane Friedkin, one of my favorite directors of all time. Thank you, Kino Lorber, for giving us To Live and Die in L.A. I know it took a long time, but the transfer was worth it. And yet these people, who makes these decisions? Where's the right stuff in 4K with an Atmos remix? Well, that didn't do very well when it came out in 83. It ended the Lad Company. You know how many people love the right stuff? You know what a great demo disc that would be? We're not going to get it. Not this year. Maybe not ever. But no, it's a problem with, I think it's a problem with this country as a whole. Because the way business is being driven, it's all profit, 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 profit. But at the end of the day, you have to make sure that the product that you're selling is because that's all you have. Yeah. And all a studio has, and they're selling, Warner Brothers is saying, you know what, we're $50 billion in debt, and we're not going to sell a good product. How can they do that? I mean, if you could pick up $1 million here and there for things that you already own for a minimal expense, really? I mean, if you have to spend $250,000, but you could make $5 million or $10 million, and what if you could do that 100 times? You've got a library. You know, they should have released 100 discs in 100 years, or 100 years. They should have released there should have been 100 catalog releases, remastered and ready to go, full-blown packaging, just like that release that they're doing, Warner Brothers, the Amazon release with the BFI book. They should have done that with 100 Warner Brothers movies. And by the way, so should Disney, which is also their 100th anniversary. There's no 4K of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. What the fuck's that about?
Well, and the Blu-ray went to the Disney Movie Club as an exclusive. You couldn't even buy that on the mainstream market.
No, I had to go to somebody to get it for me. But how can they? I mean, Heath, they've got Disney and Warner Brothers. You'd think that here we are talking about this stuff. We promote it for free. They just have to announce that it's coming out. We're going to sit there and go, oh my God, you know what they're going to put out with all this great stuff? And we're like, everyone pre-order. I mean, I go to Vinegar Syndrome and I get excited when they put out the Beastmaster in 4K. I mean, why is it that Vinegar Syndrome cares more about movies that they don't even own, they just distribute, than a major studio does about the films that aren't, they don't just own them, it's one of their crown jewels? I don't know.
I don't know. It seems so easy when we talk about it. And when Bill put that article out, I think I retweeted it and said something along the lines of, we've been saying this for years now. We've been saying this for a couple of years, especially with Disney, because it started with Disney when they were like, we're not going to put that out anymore. You like this? Don't worry, we're not going to put that out. We want you to come to our service, our streaming service. The people that I think could have made a difference are gone. They're fired.
Yeah.
Like most of the people that I knew at some of these companies are gone, and these are people that made millions of dollars for the company, and they got cut. Millions, literally tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, and they lost their job. It boggles the mind.
No, it's really one of the only businesses that is actively trying, in order to save money, they're firing their they're getting rid of all the institutional knowledge that they have, yep. And they're expecting it to be replaced by younger people. With what knowledge? I mean, right. You can't even find people under 30 that have watched movies before Jurassic Park came out. And much less,
Oh, The Exorcist is an old movie. It's 50 years old. I don't know.
It's black and white. I don't watch it.
I mean, it's a really weird place to be, and I just don't understand it. I mean, I do understand it. It all is money and profit related. Yeah. That's it. I mean, it all comes down to that. But you'd think if you're a movie studio, your library is what makes your studio worth something. Yeah. And as studios are getting dismantled and taken apart, like what? Why is Disney? Where's the French Connection, or where's Patton in 4K? Where's the 4K Planet of the Apes box set?
Well, if the French Connection does come out on 4K, is it going to have the edited scene to remove dialogue that is now offensive? Because if that's what we're going to get, I'll let them hold on to it. Do it right. Don't do it. Do it right.
It's frustrating. It's a really frustrating. It's a frustrating state of affairs. And the thing is, I think that people like David Zaslav, just don't know. It was interesting when he came over and Discovery was going to take over. Zaslav made a big point to going to different people in Hollywood and talk to them about the business. Yeah. And I feel like, okay, he's not doing day and date releases of their movies anymore. And I think that Barbie is a perfect example that if it was AT&T, they would have done a day and date release on Max and that would have been disastrous. So he's not doing that. But I think he's completely dropped the ball when it comes to home entertainment. I mean, I would have thought that if he really wanted to plant his flag, he would have said, because all they do is they see that home entertainment numbers are falling. Like every year it's 25% less, and I get that. I understand that. But everything that they remaster for disc will later wind up. I'll give you an example. Private Benjamin, which is from 1981. Private Benjamin is a Goldie Hawn film. It was one of the biggest comedies of that year. They also had like Arthur. Eileen Brennan was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. That film has never come out on Blu-ray. And the only master that exists of that film was not ever supposed to be for broadcast. So they're running a master. I watched it on HBO Max. They're running a master of a big comedy that's still hilarious with a 20-plus-year-old master that isn't even supposed to be. It was made for a specific. It's not worthy of being broadcast on an HD network. It's never been cleaned up. This is one of the titles that Warner Brothers should have released, with, by the way, special features that put it in context. Goldie Hawn's still here, and there's, I'm sure, plenty of people that you would have been able to do and to produce new special features. You could have hired someone like, myself or Charlie de Lauzirika or any number of people, Cliff Stevenson. And what we could have done is, or even collectively, hire the three of us, and we could have set up a month-long series of interviews with people from Warner Brothers history. They actually did this. Warner Brothers did this at one point. and have everybody come through to talk about films. Make it a fun thing. You show up, you come to the studio for a half an hour, you sit down, you talk about the movie you're involved with, and we could have been doing that in preparation for this 100th anniversary. That footage could have been used for both the physical media releases, and there should have been on Max a 100th anniversary sub-channel where you could click on, and they should do the same thing with all of their old Warner Archive stuff. Warner Archive should have a channel. They used to have their own streaming channel. They should have a channel on HBO Max that's curated, that has people come in and talk about the movies that they put out. Because Warner Archive has been putting out a ton of great stuff. Fritz Lang movies that I've never seen before. You know, they Yogi Bear movies, the animation collections they're putting out. They're killing it. Why aren't they putting that on streaming services? You could make it hip for people that are in their 20s to watch these old movies and comment on them and start a social media channel, do all kinds of things, but they don't.
Yeah.
But anyway, I didn't just want to talk to you about that. Since I have you here, I wanted to talk to you too about we've got a number of really great October releases that were announced from various companies, and there's been a lot made of how Disney is pulling out. I got a call, believe it or not, on Friday to go onto the BBC to talk about. They killed the segment, but they wanted me to talk about it. It would have been great for this channel, but to talk about Disney pulling out of Australia and New Zealand in terms of physical media releases, which I can understand on a spreadsheet somewhere. It looked pretty good. But at the same time, I was thinking about two of the great labels that are putting out stuff. One of them, both of them actually, Umbrella and Via Vision / Imprint, are in Australia. And even though, as Disney's saying, well, we're not gonna put physical media out, Via Vision, Imprint, and Umbrella made some great announcements for Halloween. You know, their October releases, as we already saw from Arrow and Criterion, and there's a lot of people doing great releases, and I wanted to ask you about some of them because they were announced this week. And to start with, we'll go to Umbrella. One of my Andrei Zaleski's Possession is coming out in 4K. I've owned this in a number of different versions with a sweet-ass box with lots of swag in it. Now, how do you feel about Umbrella's releases? I have to get their 4K of Peter Weir's The Last Wave. How do you feel about this coming out?
I feel great about it. I love Umbrella. I love Imprint and Via Vision. By the way, I used to say Via Vision, and someone said,
"Oh, is it Via? Because it's Australian."
In Australia, we call it Via Vision. You're saying it wrong, mate. And I was like, I'm so sorry. So
it is Via. See, I stand corrected.
Well, it just depends. Maybe, and you know what? Maybe that was for like a certain part of Australia, and another part of Australia says Via. Who knows? But I love those guys. I work pretty closely with both of them. I've reviewed every single Imprint release to date. And when we talk about Umbrella and what they're doing, it is really great curation with the kind of features. They figured out how to serve the movie and to serve the collector's market.
Yeah.
And they do these limited edition website exclusives. So if you're in Australia and you walk into JB Hi-Fi or some other retailer, you can pick up, you know, the basic version of that release. But if you go to their website, they've got an even bigger bells and whistles release that's usually limited to, I think they're like 250 or something like that. So the numbers on them are pretty low, but it's only for that super duper deluxe special edition. And it's next level stuff. I mean, they did one for Weird, the Al Yankovic, like here in the US, it's the streaming only movie. They put out a disc version, 4K. And there was a bundle on the site where it came with a Hawaiian shirt with Weird Al stuff on it. It had like Bologna, and it was amazing. And so they have figured out, okay, do the transfer, you know, get a great transfer, get a great supplement package, but also people like us want things like art cards, and we want like what they put out. Heavy Metal, you know, the animated movie Heavy Metal, it came with an air freshener, and it stank. I'm going to say it. I interviewed Jeff Harrison, the founder of the company, and I was like, what was with the air freshener? It stunk. It's like a patchouli kind of a thing. But they're trying all different kinds of things to see what we want. And yeah, like, it's really unfortunate that Disney's pulling out of Australia. apparently. I'm still hoping that somebody like Disney will issue a statement. To my knowledge, they've said nothing, right? There's been no official announcement. It's
No.
just the pre-orders have stopped, like the listings of new product have stopped. That's unfortunate, but it's not an indication of where physical media stands in Australia, because you've got those two companies that are crushing it month after month. Did
Yeah,
you, you had some,
I wanted to show
yeah,
something else. They're also putting out, Umbrella is also putting out this Dune set. Sorry, I'm covering your face. This Dune set that is here. I'll move you. Now, this Dune set is both the Sci-Fi Channel Dune miniseries, which is pretty cool. And you've got that. I mean, it's full of swag. It's this cool design thing. I mean, I'm not really sure what it all is, but it's just very cool that they're putting all this stuff out.
yeah.
And I love it. Here, let me make you so you can see yourself looking at the greatness that is this set. So you can go Brady Bunch style. Yeah, look at that. So this is this is pretty cool, and they're putting this out. I'll get this just because it's cool. And, you know, they only released this stuff, I think, I don't know if they did it on Blu-ray or maybe Children of Dune. I don't know if I have that. And then we've also got something like this Australian movie, Godless, which I don't know.
I don't know it either.
It's about an exorcism. But, you know, they released this as all part of their, their October slate. And, you know, like I said, they're putting out the 4K version of The Last Wave, which is interesting because I first saw that movie on a Warner Home Video VHS tape back. So it's appropriate because it's an Australian film about the Aboriginal Dreamtime. But so like you said, it sounds to me like somebody like Umbrella, and a lot of their special features, I was unaware of them, and I've missed out on a lot of, like, they put out this box set of Martyrs. And anybody, if you've got that box set of Martyrs, hey, your boy here. I know it's expensive, but I'll take it off your hands. But,
we'll talk. We'll talk.
Yeah, they've done a great job.
They are crushing it. I mean, it's great. And what I love about that too is, like I mentioned, like, people could just walk into a store and discs are there. Now, not those huge editions, but like, do you remember the days? And there's still a physical media presence in stores here, but
yeah.
I'm jealous of being able to walk into a store and there's that week's new releases from boutique labels, not just from the big ones, but from boutique labels. Could you imagine walking in and like, oh, there's Umbrella, there's Viavision and Imprint, there's Kino Lorber, there's, you know, Vinegar Syndrome, and, you know, like, if you could just go again, there's bastions of this in the US, but it's still more prevalent in Australia, and I'm super jealous of that because they have access to stuff that we used to have access to, and we've seen it go away.
Right. And that's true. Like, there's labels, the stuff, even retailers like HMV, you know, in the UK, the HMV was going to go out of business, and they came back, and then they put out like a great Jaws 2 box set, and they're putting out, my friend, the lovely Emma Bannon from the UK. She's always hooking me up with these titles and saying, "Oh, look what's coming out. Do you want it?" And they're putting out great stuff too, with cool swag and stuff. And then what they're doing in Germany with the media books, and whether it's Turbine or Coke, and
we had talked about talking about favorite releases. I did pull this. Have you seen this Knight Rider set from Turbine?
No, but oh my god! Okay, wait a minute. Let's show us this. Okay, here.
Okay, this is from Turbine, out of Germany, and now the packaging has German on it, but the discs are. They're region free, and they are when you load up the disc, it's like it starts in German, and you click a button on Kit's dashboard, and it switches to the English, and it goes thank you. All right, hang on, let me pop the top of this off. So again, this is going to be in German, and are we right side up? No, yeah, we're right side.
You're good.
Okay, so it has like schematics and stuff. It's got 2 full-size posters, and when I say full-size, I mean like full-size posters.
Those are one sheets, 27 by 41 one sheets, or 27 or 26 by 40. Wow.
And then that's that art. That art's okay. There's a whole other poster too.
That looks like the Emmanuel release I have with the 4K Emmanuel box set. That's incredible.
So this is I won't do all of this, but like so another poster, and then hold on, I gotta put this in a place where I'm not gonna bend anything because we are collectors, right? Okay, so here's what you get inside of that, and so like here's art cards. It comes with an identification card, dude's social security card, press pass, press card, his California driver's license. Hold on. California driver's license, stickers, and this, I can't read it, but it comes with a 300-page book in German all about the making of the series.
Well, if you get Google Translate for your phone, it'll instantaneously translate the text and put it in English.
How would I do that? I would have to scan every page?
No. You just take your phone and you read it in real time.
Oh, okay.
It immediately turns the German language into English. It's unbelievable how it works.
That's cool.
Oh my God.
So they line up. Hold on, they're out of order. Let's see. So this is the extra stuff here, season 1. So they make a mural this way, and they also make a mural like this way.
Yeah. Wow.
And it comes with this whole supplemental. This is special features. So the let's see, Knight Rider bonus disc, which is like tons of new interviews. Knight Rider 2000, Knight Rider 2010, and then Team Knight Rider are all on Blu-ray here too. So that's to your point. Like, this is
definitive,
an incredible German release that I'm so grateful that I have, because I love Knight Rider, obviously. I'm gonna put all this together while you vamp.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, it's incredible. By the way, another thing, since we were talking about ViaVision stuff, I did want to point out, ViaVision. Now that I've been corrected, ViaVision, they're putting out Tarantino's Grindhouse and Robert Rodriguez's Grindhouse, which has never come out as Grindhouse, and the full movie. You've got Planet Terror and you've got Death Proof, but not the full movie with the trailers in between. I mean, look at this. Who doesn't want to have that?
It seems like an opportunity to print money, doesn't it?
Yeah, print money. Put it out because people are going to buy it, and it will in fact sell out. They're also doing a Stephen King box set, a collection: Needful Things, Secret Window, Riding the Bullet, 1408, The Mist, Bag of Bones. This is not in 4K. This is in Blu-ray. And yes, Kino Lorber did put out Needful Things, but this box set is pretty cool if you want to get that. So again,
I love the paperback style distressing on the packaging too.
Oh, yeah, I love it. It's so cool. And then there's also this coming out, which is, I think this is coming out though from Umbrella, which is the Pusher trilogy. It's Nicholas Winding Refn's Pusher trilogy of Pusher 1, 2, and 3. That's again a very cool release and a cool box. That's something that Umbrella's doing, and again, coming from Australia. I don't even know if they've released these in America. I'm not sure. I mean, I get them from, they have, I think, but what a cool way to get this. Right. And why not? And of course, we have to pay the import fees. Somebody in America is not making money, and they could be, but I'm happy to give it to Umbrella. Good for Umbrella. Thank you, Umbrella.
Somebody like Diabolic DVD carries a lot of this stuff too.
Yep. That's another thing. You can order from them. They have great. Diabolic DVD has all this stuff up for pre-order. You just gotta jump on it pretty quick if you want it. And they're putting there is so much stuff. Another great label is Indicator, out of the UK. Indicator's putting out the Jean Rollin lesbian vampire movies in 4K. They're putting out Fascination, which is Fascination and The Living Dead Girl are my favorites, but Fascination coming out, and those packages are great. Slipcased, beautiful, comes with a book for each one. They've already put out multiples there of those, and their Indicators doing some incredible stuff. And again, BFI, Eureka, these UK labels are killing it. And I mean, putting out, I think, is it Eureka putting out Pandora's Box from the 20s, and then of course you've got Studio Canal is still, sometimes they can be hit or miss, but Studio Canal's putting out some great stuff. And then BFI, Bill Forsyth, who made Local Heroes, putting out Gregory's Girl. They're doing a 4K remaster of that, which is pretty nifty. And since I mentioned Kino Lorber, they're putting out Brett Ratner's Red Dragon. Why is Kino Lorber God bless Kino Lorber. Thanks for doing it. I'm happy they're doing it. But why is Universal and Paramount giving away their catalog titles to Kino Lorber? Hey, I'm happy to get them. Don't get me wrong. But my God, do these studios not care about their own releases? I mean, I'm happy to get them as long as they're in 4K. Fantastic. And they've put out a ton of Paramount stuff, which is great. But then, I mean, they're putting out, it's interesting to me, Paramount will put out Staying Alive in 4K, Saturday Night Fever in 4K, but they give Staying Alive, the crazy sequel, to Kino Lorber? What, are they embarrassed
I wonder
by
if it's a profit issue, if they're like, or sometimes I wonder if they want to distance themselves from the movie itself. I don't know. Because Silence of the Lambs came out from Kino Lorber too.
Right. Yeah, but that's Orion. But that was where whoever owns that.
Yeah,
now.
that's true. That's true. But I just is it because he's a cannibal and nobody I'm just like, is there some political reason behind it that they're like, let's distance ourselves from the man-eating?
Well, I think some of it's true because I happen to know for a fact, like Basic Instinct, Studio Canal did Basic Instinct in 4K, and they did a box set and they did a steelbook. The company that owns it in America might be giving it to Kino Lorber to put out, or so I've heard, because they're uncomfortable with the subject matter.
I think that happens a lot. I think that studios just don't want to deal with the bad PR on Twitter.
I think you're right, and that's happening more and more, which is, to me, that's just a level of a maturity level that we have sunk to. Again, capitulating to people that have the maturity level of, well, not to slam on, but this is becoming a big problem in this country. that we, like you said on Twitter, somebody's going to get mad. Like half of the exploitation movies that have been made would be canceled on Twitter, and we would never get them if certain people had their way. So they would rather squelch free speech and squelch our cinematic history to feel better, to feel more comfortable. And this is a dangerous place to be. I'm a staunch supporter. Look what happened with
Severin. Severin lost their YouTube channel because of a trailer that I don't even think had any nudity in it.
No. And Severin, by the way, doing the Lord's work, the stuff that Severin has been killing it lately. I mean, I wonder what Twitter would think of their Black Emmanuel box that they just put out, this lovingly crafted. And, I moved it, but the woman that wrote the book House of Psychotic Women, she curated, she edited the book that comes with the Black Emmanuel set. That's a fantastic book. And it's like YouTube would rather censor a company like Severin that is putting out all these things with context, so you can understand where these films came from, who made them, why they were made, the legacy of these movies in the 70s. And they want to get rid of a company like Severin's voice? This is just straight up fascistic ideological censorship that is dangerous.
I think what we're seeing is the rise of big business in a way that we haven't really seen before in our lifetime. We saw some of it in the 80s, but it's so much worse now. And big business is really seeking to silence or control independent voices. And it's kind of weird that I see some people supporting it, because I do get, in my engagement with people online and in the Serial at Midnight comments and things like that, there do seem to be some big business bros that are like very pro Disney, very pro Zaslav. I'm like, but they're crushing the things that we care about, and they're turning everything into this. It just makes everything worse. And I think in the chase of profits, in the chase of dollars, we have sacrificed a lot of who we are. And I worry about younger generations who are growing up in this moment, because this is all that they know.
Right.
They don't know anything differently. And this just becomes, well, this is normal. This is what we do. But it's not what we've always done. And it's not what we have to do.
I mean, I'd like to believe that as more and more people are discovering these things will start to hopefully change. But yeah, I mean, the problem that the thing that I fear is that when you're looking at analytics, and I've always talked about the fact that I believe that pop culture has a half-life of 20 years. Every 20 years, people watch less and less and less of something, unless they try and revive it. You know, hopefully the Exorcist prequel or the sequels that they're making at Blumhouse. I have to say I was not impressed with the first trailer for The Exorcist, but hopefully it causes people to go back and look at the original. The defense is, well, you can always go back and get the original. Yeah, but how long is that going to last? I mean, in America, they certainly, that cover art, like as Bill Hunt pointed out, you know, the Exorcist has always been identified with that very iconic shot of Father Merrin getting out in black and white almost, with the light shining down on him with his briefcase and his hat. That is one of the most iconic images in horror history. Everybody knows what that is. To the point of, I have a shot, that exact same picture, of Robert Smith from The Cure, from the Boys Don't Cry single release, where he's Father Merrin, and everyone can look at it and go, oh my God, that's The Cure and The Exorcist together. People know it's, and yet they give us a cover art that is very reductive. It looks silly.
Why do you think they do that?
You know what? Here's what I think. I think they do that because there is, one, people have to make changes to justify their jobs. It's like, well, look at the horrible artwork we got for The Lost Boys and for Poltergeist. If somebody comes in and if they don't, they literally, part of it is that they don't even know what those things are. They don't know that The Exorcist, like, they'll look at that picture and go, well, that picture's kind of boring. It's a guy standing next to a car in front of a house at night. That doesn't say Exorcist to me. So they come along and they figure, well, we're going to pick the most pulp. I mean, the funny thing about it is the people that created that cover, I don't necessarily think ever saw the movie. That's the thing that, like, when I'm watching, what's crazy to me about when I watch modern Star Trek or I look at a cover art for The Exorcist, it shows me that those people haven't actually seen the very thing that they're working on. Because it shows that they have no understanding of what it is. Because anybody who, even look at the cover Warner Brothers did for Evil Dead Rise. You know, I'm sure somebody probably said, well, that was a pretty cool cover, you know, a cool artwork. And they tried to emulate something along those lines. But The Exorcist has so many iconic images from it, to pick that and then to stylize it color-wise the way they did. Like, who looked at that and thought, okay, here's an Academy Award nominated film that is notorious and it's beloved, and that's what they give you. It was very reductionist to me. And the fact is that had to get approved. Somebody looked at that and it went up the approval process, and then it went to a design firm that made it. So it was actually, they probably outsourced that video to a design, or outsourced that video box cover to a design firm, and no one at that design firm watched The Exorcist, clearly, because nobody with any design sensibility would have ever delivered that image for, so you've got a bunch of people that have never seen the thing that they're designing for. Because even at the design companies, I would say, okay, guys, I expect you all to watch The Exorcist, because we're now being paid by a studio to do a cover and come up with something really, really good. So you have multiple levels of people that don't know what they're doing, who are working on something and releasing them at the studio level, which is insane. And that's what's happening across the board. And you know what? In this day and age, I hate to say this, nobody's actually doing the work. If you get hired to work on something, I think people are hard-pressed to sit down, even if you get hired to write for a TV show, a legacy show, pick your show, I'll say Star Trek. People won't even look up BuzzFeed's latest article, the 25 best episodes of Star Trek, or the original series. Do you think they're going to go watch those episodes? No. Nobody wants to do the work anymore. So you're getting people that are, and it's obvious in the work that we're getting. That's how I know that they're not doing the work. I mean, if somebody showed me that picture, that Exorcist picture, as opposed to, I mean, here's the UK release, and here's the American release. And I would actually bring all those people in one morning, and I'm like, okay, guys, let's look and analyze both of these box covers. And they're not doing that. And it just shows me it's incompetence. You know, I sometimes feel like I actually wrote a letter to David Zaslav, and I didn't send it. And I was going to, because whenever you, here's a pro tip, kids. If ever you want to get a letter to somebody in an executive arm of a studio or something, always write on you have to make your letter look incredibly official. If you've got a letterhead, use a letterhead, and always write on it personal and confidential on the bottom. Now, I'm not saying it's always going to work, but it gives your letter a leg up, especially because the mailroom's not going to not deliver that. And watch, now terrorists are going to use it and send like anthrax or some shit like that.
Fault.
It's going to be my fault. But I didn't write it. I didn't write a letter because I was like, well, how is it going to be received? Because I don't want to come off as a crazy person. But when you have people that are already working at the studio that know their business, Warner Brothers has motion picture imaging that's on the lot. They do a lot of transfers, and they bend over backwards to try and make things right. But they can only make things that they're given. They can only work with elements that they're given. Wait till you guys see and hear about the new Rambo box set that my friend Cliff Stevenson has been overseeing. It's way better because they couldn't find certain sound elements. They went back and found 70 millimeter prints where they were able to take the sound elements off the 70 millimeter prints of some of the Rambo films that have never been out on home video before. Amazing stuff. But you need somebody that's dogged in their pursuit of getting the right elements. And Warner Brothers has that person in George Feltenstein. And he's happy, even though he runs Warner Premiere. If you were to go to him and go, George, we found these elements for Barry Lyndon, or we found these elements for The Exorcist, or can you look at this box set and tell us what we should do? He would tell you. And he would not want credit for it. He'd just want to make sure that the company made money. That's the thing. The company is losing money by putting this terrible shit out. And then when they don't fix something, if something is wrong, like, I don't know if people remember, the Road Warrior came out, and the sound, when they put out that anthology set, the Road Warrior that came out, the surround channels were messed up, and you had to wait and get it fixed. I mean, how does that happen? How does somebody in that quality control chain not know? Because they don't.
Lest anybody think that we're just being grumpy old men who are like, they're just talking. No, this is true. I've been told from people inside companies that the leadership and the people making the decisions about these things, the people signing off on these things, do not know movies. They don't know, like when you're talking about The Exorcist, there are people that are probably working on that, haven't seen The Exorcist, don't care about The Exorcist. Somebody told me the other day, I'm going to have to be careful with this. They said there's a very popular movie that's based on a book recently. And they said, did you know that of everybody that worked on that movie, only one person was even familiar with the source material, and they didn't read the book, they read a synopsis of the book. That's where we're at. That's just what's happening.
Yeah, no, that's and it's unfortunate. And I don't know how that has suddenly been allowed to happen. Like, how does somebody get a job and want to do the least amount of work in that position? Like, because everyone, like, no one takes pride in like, I did work at Warner Brothers for 2 years. I worked on the lot. I worked for the senior vice president of physical production. And the first thing that I did when I got there was start walking around and meeting people and going places I shouldn't go just to find out what was there and who I needed to talk to and where could I go to get this. And it was an incredible place. And people were happy to talk to me because nobody, like, I remember walking across, I was up on one of the offices, Phil Daguerre's office. Phil Daguerre produced the 80s revival of The Twilight Zone. I just opened his door, and he was in there. I knocked first, and you know, I go in there and go,
He was in the bathroom. He walked in.
Yeah, well, and I said that I work, because I could say I work for physical production, and everybody would be like, oh, you do? Sometimes I got in trouble because I told people I wasn't supposed to, but and I went and had a conversation with him about the 80s Twilight Zone and told him how much I loved it, and I'm like, why did you replace the narrator and blah, blah, blah. And he couldn't believe anybody on the lot even remembered he produced it. And I'm like, come on, dude. And it's amazing what you can get done with if you're on a quest for knowledge that you later want to apply somewhere else. You can get a lot further in life if you want to do that, but nobody wants to do the work. And I don't know why. It didn't used to be that way. You had people that worked in home in the 90s when Laserdiscs and when DVDs first started to take off. Part of the reason the DVD format took off is because of how many people cared. Like, suddenly every exploitation movie ever made, people would buy. You had the rise of companies like Elite and Anchor Bay and And Don May, over at Synapse, his life's work was to get Suspiria out in 4K to get the best version. I mean, when I got that Blu-ray, the Blu-ray of Suspiria that Synapse put out, I almost wanted to weep because I saw the realization of one man's dream of putting out the best version of Argento's Suspiria that ever existed. And indeed, he did. And if you get that 4K of Suspiria, it's like, holy shit. And the love that was put into that disc is apparent in every frame of that restoration. And I'm like, why don't we have those people at the studio? They're out there. Why aren't they there? Why aren't they working?
They were there. I think they all got fired.
They did get fired.
Yeah.
They all got fired. But the funny thing is when you have somebody like a George Feltenstein at Warner Brothers, he's there. Like, you've got fucking Gandalf there. You've got the man who understands the workings of Middle Earth working at your studio, who is just waiting to help. He's waiting to help, and it's like, why aren't you? It might not be his actual. I'm sure on the corporate structure that people that resent his help. I don't understand why. He'll be happy to let you take all the credit in the world. Why doesn't everybody make money? If home video is making money across the board everywhere, a high tide raises all ships. Everybody wins. If suddenly, can you imagine what David Zaslav, who's $50 billion in debt, if he start looking at the spreadsheets and he's like, oh, the only department that's consistently making money is home entertainment, and they apparently are in a business where they're selling 25% less of things every year, and yet they made millions of dollars during our 100th anniversary. I mean, how come, if I can ask, how come you've got science fiction, fantasy, and horror are by definition, under any metric, the things that sell the most to collectors? I mean, you want classic films too, but I mean, if we're going to get excited about Possession in 4K, if I would be hard pressed, other than George Feltenstein, I'll bet you there's not one person on the Warner Brothers lot that works at the executive level. If I went and said, oh my God, you're not going to believe it, Zulawski's Possession is coming out in 4K from Umbrella, no one at Warner Brothers would know what the fuck I was talking about or who was in it. Feltenstein would. He'd probably be able to give you a dissertation on what happened to the negative of the last 20 years and how many people had already released it in 4K.
Yeah.
And how many people, like Mondo, put out a furry box set of Possession in 4K. He would know. But that's what we're dealing with. And I feel like the entire country is that way now. The Wall Street thinking has allowed this whole strata of people to be hired in every single business that don't know their jobs. You work for Pepsi? Well, you're qualified. Come to Warner Brothers and go work on all the movies that we're selling, because there's no difference between Pepsi Cola and The Exorcist in 4K. It's exactly the same thing. It's a product to be sold to consumers. I mean, that's where we're at, man.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I wish that there was some optimistic upside. I don't know that there is. Bill says in his article that they can do better, and that by calling them out, hopefully they will do better. That's the only thing I know to do.
You can't tell people to do better because then they're offended. What you have to tell them is that you're leaving money on the table. Your company should have made millions of dollars on your watch, and because of your ineptitude and inaction, you've cost your company millions of dollars. Where is Warner Brothers' 100th anniversary should have had 100 releases coming out over, 2 releases a week for a year. And we should have some of the classic Warner Brothers titles in 4K and make a big celebration of it. They put the least amount of work. Those box sets that they're putting out, they're not even Columbia Pictures. When they decide to put out 4K box sets, they fucking rule. You get 12 movies that were not available in 4K. Admittedly, some people might ask, do you need Annie in 4K? Hey, I don't. Maybe somebody does. But they put out these beautiful box sets with beautiful packaging. And they're fantastic. And then, Sony Classics put out their box set. And I have Run Lola Run in 4K, if that's what I want. I have SLC Punk in 4K. Who would have thought if Warner Brothers had SLC Punk, they're like, we're not going to put this out in 4K. Why would we do that? And Sony did. And God bless you guys over there at Sony. Warner Brothers has the science fiction movies. They could have done for their 100th anniversary. They could have gone all the way back to movies like Them in 4K. They could have given us, even though it's an MGM title, Forbidden Planet in 4K. They could have given us Outland in 4K. 2010, Brainstorm, Altered States, Logan's fucking Run in 4K. Come on, guys. The Omega Man and Soylent Green. You could have done a science fiction box set in 4K that would have ruled. It would have sold like hotcakes, and it would have sold out. You could have made 10,000 copies. They all would have been gone. And you could have made millions. Nope.
It's true. Yeah, you're right.
I know. I mean, look, I want to bring this up. Memento. We got a Memento coming out. A box set of Memento from a boutique label. And they're putting it out. You know, why not? Kino Lorber, not in 3D, but they're putting out The Terror from Beyond Space, a classic science fiction film. But it's a new transfer. They're going back and doing a new version of it. I don't know how Kino Lorber manages to do it, but they're crushing it. I mean, hell, there's going to be a 4K restoration of Farewell, My Concubine, which will be making it its way to disc. How about this? The Terror, newly restored from Film Masters. The Terror Special Edition, even though Boris Karloff's in it, you got Dick Miller, early Jack Nicholson in The Terror. Somebody's out there. How come they can restore The Terror and I can't get the right stuff in 4K? Huh? Come on, Warner Brothers.
It's a matter of priorities, is what it is.
It is. And then we got Breaking the Waves is coming out in 4K from whatchamacallit, Curzon. Curzon's putting this out in 4K. I thought this was shot on video, one of these Lars von Trier, not Dogma 95, but they're figuring out a way to put this out on 4K. It's coming. It's coming. And anyway, I feel like I've been belaboring the point. I asked you to bring some other special features or your favorite special editions. Do you have?
I have a few. Yeah, I do.
I'd love, because that Knight Rider was worth the price of admission. I'd love to see what else you have.
Well, so I don't think I have anything else that's quite that prestigious, but it's interesting. So I have two things that were distributed by Warner Brothers in the U.S. and that they have not put out on 4K here. How about Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves on 4K from Arrow? This is the UK version of this movie.
Yep.
One of my favorite movies of all time. This is one of the movies that launched my physical media collection that I was like, why am I renting this when I can own this? And it's bells and whistles, man. It's got tons and tons of special features. They've carried over. We got new special features. We've got the vintage, I think it was in the 1991 making of, it was like a TV special. Pierce Brosnan. We got a double-sided poster. We got a 60-page book. I mean, this is, and it's 4K,
by the way,
right?
that's a straight up Warner Brothers movie.
Yeah.
Straight up Warner Brothers movie.
Yeah. And I'm about to show you another one here. Now I got to put this back in the box too, because I'm a collector.
And
I don't
isn't
want to
that,
anything.
by the way, isn't that a UK only release?
Yes, it is, because it's. I'm not even sure how the licensing worked, but I guess it's distributed by somebody else in the UK. I'm not sure. Let me see who they credit for it, or what it says. It's Park Circus and Revolution Films.
Yeah, that
So
might have been a UK distribution deal or something to raise the money.
Warner Brothers had nothing to do with it. They'll tell you that.
Yeah.
And then the other one that is all over. This is Warner Brothers. I mean, let's talk about.
I have that box set. How
it's amazing, right?
It's amazing.
And you had to go to the UK to get it.
Yes,
right?
I did, along with Citizen Kane.
Yes. Steelbook version comes with a letter of transit. What is this? The press book, like.
Oh yeah, and it's Casablanca.
And in the US, we got the 4K disc, and I can't. It might have come with a Blu-ray. I can't remember. But this is a 3-disc version that comes with a ton of other special features. It's got the Brothers Warner documentary on it. It's got, hours and hours of those special features that we didn't get on the U.S. release, but that's included with this. So that's more of what we're talking about. Like, why are these features not being included with these editions going forward?
Now, I will say this. I will say, not to just slam on Warner Brothers, because I love Warner Brothers, but the people at Warner Brothers did, in fact, they were responsible for a lovingly crafted restoration of Casablanca. And they were able to give us better sound than we've ever had, using up-to-date digital technology to make it crisper. So that's the thing. When Warner Brothers and their version of the Maltese Falcon that they put out, when they're unleashed, when the people and when George Felsenstein is unleashed and can call, because George knows all the people that know what to do, like Mr. I keep saying Richard Harris, but Robert Harris, Richard Harris, the actor. He knows the best people in the world to get. I'll tell you. I can say this because Second Sight has tweeted this out. Second Sight is doing a restoration of The Hitcher. They're going to put The Hitcher out. And back in May, they were showing that they were working on it. George was instrumental. He made a deal for The Hitcher, but he was instrumental in finding they couldn't find that negative. And he went because it was an HBO Films presentation, and they had to go find it, and no one had seen The Hitcher. I mean, The Hitcher I don't believe it's ever been domestically released, even on Blu-ray. And they're doing that movie's great, and the cinematography is incredible. It's going to look amazing.
Yep.
And hopefully we'll see the same thing happen with Near Dark. But Warner Brothers does do a phenomenal job when they are given the opportunity, and they have done some amazing restoration work.
I agree.
So
yeah, that's a good point. Their transfers they're often quite good. Are we saying that George Felsenstein is the savior of physical media? Are we putting that label on him?
No, because he would never. George Felsenstein is the first person in the world to give everybody else credit, and if he's listening to this show, he's probably red in the face and embarrassed. But I would say because the thing about George is what he wants is to get the best product out, and to get the cinematic legacy of the studio, both for MGM and Warner Brothers, restored. He's just the man. I've never met as many. There's very few people in the world that I've ever met that are as passionate about the art of cinema as George is. And the thing is, he's at Warner Brothers. He's at the studio, and he'll do whatever they want him to do. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that the corporate. And by the way, all you have to do is look at Warner Archive's output. And I would like people to take. I mean, it might not be everybody's cup of tea because they're older classic films, and I understand that. But if you look at the bit rates on the discs of the Warner Archive discs, look at how high they are. The Warner Archive bit rates are usually higher than most of the normal Warner Brothers Blu-ray releases. And it's because George's oversight of those movies. It's not just about titles. The fact that he curates the covers and goes back and finds the best key art to use on the covers of those discs, incredible. And he's not interested in necessarily taking credit for all this stuff. He just wants the greatest versions of those movies to be available for posterity. And when eventually somebody at Warner Brothers figures out, wait a minute, Warner Archive should have their own channel. And what they should do is make it a hip thing, make it memeable. Like have contests for TikTokers to go back and watch these films from the 30s. And make the best memes out of them, and figure out and turn it into give the younger generation a reason to delve into movies from the 30s or 40s. Or Kino Lorber, I got a few discs. We got some stuff. Kino Lorber, since they've sponsored this channel, Ida Lupino's Outrage. I mean, this is a memeable movie from 1950.
Very much so.
The Spanish Dancer. This is from 1923. Kino Lorber putting this out, and then like you pointed out, Audie Murphy Collection number 2 that has Sierra on it, and it also has Destry and Kansas Raiders. I mean, I don't know how Kino Lorber stays in business or something, but they are putting out an amazing array of silent films, of films from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. Incredible catalog titles. Every month they send gems out into the world, and it's fantastic. But yeah, it's great. It's fantastic.
It is great. And when you look at it like that, we have a lot to be thankful for.
We do.
Kino draws a lot from that Universal catalog. I don't know, like you were asking, like why is Universal licensing so much of this stuff out? I don't know, but I'm glad that they do, because I have a feeling that a lot of the stuff that Kino Lorber's putting out through that Universal licensing wouldn't get seen otherwise, because it's just so niche.
Yep.
Like Sierra, like an Audie Murphy Western from 1950, which I watched and I enjoyed. By the way, bit part in there for Tony Curtis. Got to get my Tony Curtis shout out because he's in that movie. It has, you know, limited appeal, I guess is what I'm saying. And if they put that out properly, you sell 500, you sell 1,000, I don't know. But Kino Lorber has the infrastructure set up, and then they have those sales, right? People wait for those sales, and then they'll spend like $500 just at one time to get all these movies. Every month, I think there's at least a dozen movies coming from Kino Lorber that are through Universal.
Yep.
And I'm like, what even is this? You know, this like pre-codes and like some movie from 1933 or something like that. For me, it's an education, because I'm just kind of where we're at right now with physical media. Like we do have to, I want to make sure we put some joy into this too, because there's a lot to be concerned about. But like, I'm just holding on for dear life. Like I'm on a roller coaster right now, and we are just enjoying so much. We have so much cinema history at our fingertips, whereas we never have before. I say this sometimes, you know, when I listen to guys like Joe Dante, who go back to collecting movies on film in canisters, we have access to so much more than we've ever had before. And hopefully we're enjoying it too. Like we do complain, but I want to like be thankful and joyful, because like Kino Lorber's crushing it. The Australian labels are crushing it. There's a lot of great stuff coming out, and it looks better than it's ever looked before. Like 4K restorations for things you're like, what? They spent the money on a 4K restoration for this little thing? But what a time to be alive. What a time to be a fan, you know?
Well, I love how you turned it around, because I was being an old curmudgeonly man, and you're correct about that. But you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the things, Curzon, they put out a Wim Wenders box set, and one of the things that they did was they did a restoration of Wings of Desire, which is one of my favorite films. And if you know anything about that movie, it was shot in black and white and color. But in order to, which I did not know, I mean, I knew it was that way, but when they printed the film, when they made film prints to show, they had to go back to color film, because you can't go back and make a half black and white, half color film print. So the whole movie was printed on color film, which means that the black and white, which was shot by Henri Alecan, who's one of the great black and white cinematographers of all time when he was like 89 years old or something, it never looked great. So when Curzon went back, they made sure when they were remastering the movie that they went back to the original negative and mastered the black and white from the original negative. And it looks, the movie, if you know the film, it looks incredible. I mean, I'd never seen the movie look that way. And that was all because Curzon and the people that were restoring the film, and a lot of places like the UK that have the BFI and stuff, they get government grants to help them remaster these films, which is fantastic, because we in America, we don't have the same devotion to the arts in terms of preserving things as art the way that they do, because Europeans have been human beings for thousands of years longer than we have here in America. So they understand that part of the reason that human life is worth living is because of art. So preserving, I mean, everything is just, in America, it's just a product. If you can't make a profit for it, well, what do we care? Well, we're seeing this kind of restoration all across the board, and which is fantastic. And like you pointed out, we've never had better transfers and better versions of these movies than we have now. And these boutique labels, whether it's Second Sight, you know, whether it's Arrow, these people that are just killing it. You know, I thought the Scarlet box set would be the end-all of the Hellraiser franchise, but oh, no. You know, then Arrow's like, nope, we're going to put out a Scarlet box that's now got an extra movie, and it's all going to be in 4K. And so these, not only are these genre labels, because everybody who works at these genre labels are fanatics like we are. And we are living in a wondrous time of wonders, that companies like, my God, who knows what Severin's going to put out next? Who knows what Arrow's going to drop? Who knows what Umbrella's going to come up with? Who knows? They do. We know that Second Sight's going to put out The Hitcher at some point, which is going to be fantastic. And, you know, Second Sight, they're a company that other companies even put stuff out before them because the deals they have to make, because they're a small boutique label. So they have to let some mass-produced company let them, like Crimes of the Future was coming out from other companies before their release. They don't get to have the first release of a movie like Crimes of the Future. But you know what? I'll wait and I'll buy what Second Sight's going to give me and support them and if I want the movie, then I'll buy it twice. I'll buy the original Blu-ray that came out of Crimes of the Future, guilty as charged, I did that. But as soon as that Crimes of the Future box set is up for pre-order, cha-ching, I will buy it from them because they deserve my support, and that's the disc I want anyway. And, sometimes what Second Sight will do is Robert Eggers was never happy with the way his film The Witch was transferred onto home entertainment because for whatever reason, a lot of companies, believe it or not, will not let him be involved. They won't allow a cinematographer and a director to sit down when they're transferring a low-budget movie. But Second Sight will. And so we get Robert Eggers' proper transfer of The Witch. The only way to get it in his definitive way is to buy that Second Sight version. And that's what these smaller boutique labels are doing with a lot of these great genre films. And they're giving us the best versions. And my beloved Vinegar Syndrome put out an Australian movie called Body Melt that Elizabeth, my girlfriend, will forever make fun of me for showing it to her. One of the first movies I ever showed her. I'm like, hey, I got this. I've always wanted to see this movie, and it was a terrible VHS rip. And I made her watch it. But when Vinegar Syndrome put out a slipcased or O-ringed version of it, a beautiful new transfer, I was the first person to buy it and bring it home and go, look, honey, I have a perfectly transferred version of Body Melt now. She turned around and walked away, but I have it. Thank you, Vinegar Syndrome. You're doing the Lord's work. So we do live in a great time.
Can I piggyback on that too? You showed The Terror. So Film Masters is picking up where the film Detective kind of left off.
Yep.
Same people behind it. And the level of, these are like largely public domain movies. They're cheesy movies or B movies. They're movies that have been made fun of on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yes.
But they are getting the love and attention and the restorations, special features, a booklet, like commentaries, making of documentaries. And it's like $17.99 or something like that. So that's amazing. I want to shout Film Masters out. The first release comes out in September, I believe. And then I also want to shout out Radiance Films, which is Fran Simeone from Arrow. He left Arrow and started his own company, and now he's doing Radiance Films. They just released, or I just got their Cosa Nostra box set, which is Franco Nero movies. Django, guys. We're talking about Django. Franco Nero in these 3 mafia movies from, that classic, like late 60s, early 70s era with, again, like Criterion level extras. They got documentaries. There's this, it's like a 120-page book or something that comes with this thing. These are movies, Italian movies that have historically, so many of these movies just haven't been seen in our market, and now we're getting these lavish special editions. Arrow put out, they're out of camera here, but these box sets of Italian cinema. We are living in a moment right now, and I don't know how much longer it's going to last. The studios have dropped some of the two of the studios have dropped the ball, but the ball is being picked up and carried as far as it can go by the third parties and by the independents, and keep it going, guys. And don't get discouraged and think that all hope is lost or that physical media is dying. I'm so tired of hearing that physical media is dying, because it's not. It's gone back to a collector niche market, and look what we get. Look what they're doing to serve us.
Oh, to follow that up, I'd like to, because we haven't given them a shout out yet. Shout out to 88 Films and 101 Films in the UK too. Yeah. They're crushing it in terms of their releases from the Far East. Whether you're talking about Chinese martial arts or crime thrillers, man, we are getting a great array of films from them. I mean, hell, 88 Films put out the Super Inframan. Thank you, 88 Films. I mean, 88 Films even put out things like Two Moon Junction, which I couldn't believe. But and then 101 Films doing like box sets of Phase 4, the Ant movie. That's the only movie Saul Bass directed. So we're getting incredible, like you said, incredible stuff across the board. And, I wish I had an unlimited income, because I would talk about Radiance Films. They put out Dennis Hopper's The Hot Spot. which I only have on a dual disc with another movie. And again, they're putting out Messiah of Evil that I can't wait to get from them.
Mm-hmm.
So Radiance is doing, again, you should just buy everything that these companies put out because they're always going to be interesting. Then they're going to put out, and even if you don't find them interesting, you'll learn something because they include so much information that it's incredible. I think that, if I won there's the Powerball lottery that's Tuesday nights up to like $1.5 billion. If I win the Powerball lottery, one of the things I will do with that money is whether it's at USC or NYU, I would like to start the Robert Meyer Burnett Genre Studies Department and buy every niche label copy of these films for their library. So all of these things can exist and be studied in one place because we're getting an embarrassment of riches that I think a lot of people are just taking for granted. But these, like you said, Radiance, Indicator, because Indicator has started to go back into older films now because a lot of the new stuff is, and they're putting out they're doing incredible transfers as well.
Yeah.
And they're the people doing the Jean Rollin movies, and they've started slipcasing things and putting them in. Now I know you had a finite amount of time today. I don't know if you can stick around for a little while longer, just for a few super chats.
Sure, let's do it. Yeah, let's go.
Thornhill J. Thornhill. I keep thinking Roger Thornhill. Hi, Rob. What would be yours and Heath's holy grail of movies to get the 4K treatment? My choice would be the John Wayne movie, The Searchers. Oh, that would definitely be one of them. But do you have off the top of your head, Heath? Are there movies you'd like to get in 4K?
I get this question a lot, and these questions are hard for me because I am so blessed already with what I have to watch and with what's still on my list and in my stack. And it's funny. Like 2 or 3 years ago, somebody asked me. Well, I did a video. It was like 5 movies that still need physical media releases or something like that. And in that time, I think all but one of them has gotten a physical media release, and I think most of them are in 4K. So it's usually just a matter of time. I will second The Searchers because I love that movie, and it's weird that we get Rio Bravo before we get The Searchers. But what do you know? Yeah,
I mean, I would say things like I would love to get like The Right Stuff. A lot of the movies I want because I love The Right Stuff. I'd love to get Patton and Planet of the Apes, some of these Fox movies in 4K. I would love, I think Forbidden Planet in 4K would lend itself so well. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I can't believe 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, what it means to Disney history. How come that hasn't received a lavish Dolby Atmos remix in 4K? Because that movie is absolutely beautiful. And it was very important in the Walt Disney Studio. It's their 100th anniversary. And there's no mention of it. And like you said, it was released through the Disney Club. And again, that's because the people that are working at Disney Home Video, they don't know the importance of 20,000 Leagues to the Studio. And add to that, give me a 4K Mary Poppins. And where's that? I mean, give me that kind of stuff.
Why didn't that come out when the sequel came out 3 years ago or whenever that was?
I
what
don't
a great
know.
window to do that.
And that's when they like to release these kinds of things. And look, we're getting Rosemary's Baby, which is I want Chinatown in 4K. Where's that?
Yeah.
And by the way, why are we getting a goofy Rosemary's Baby cover that gives away the movie? It literally is a spoiler for the movie. If you've never seen the movie,
terrible.
they're that horrible, ridiculous cover that makes fun of the film. I would like to see the original versions of Star Wars released in 4K rather than, constantly having to rip the files I have for other people.
No.
Yeah, unbelievable. But so Thornhill, thanks for that. Hitchhiker 42 became a new member. Kelvin Wellborn has sent me a lot of stuff from Australia, which has been great. He's sent me a lot of imprint stuff when I haven't been able to get it. Like, he sent me the imprint Wicker Man box set, which is now being superseded by the 50th anniversary 4K. Yeah, isn't that box set cool? This one? That's such a cool box set. I love that so much. Again, look at that. Come on.
Yeah.
Kelvin, if I didn't have Kelvin sending me that, I wouldn't have it. Darth Plagueis re-upped his membership. Thank you for that. And says, why do they have to put that contemporary music into trailers for historic movies? Look at the trailer for Ridley Scott's Napoleon. It's unengaging. Again, because it's easy and it's stylistic, and I don't know. But I hear the movie's good. Kenneth Crayley Jr. says, there's no reason the 4K UHD box sets of Rocky and Superman 1 through 4 that Warner Brothers released early in the year should have had the massive QC problems they did, and they need to be recalled badly. It's so strange and frustrating. Again, because then they'd have to spend extra money. And if they spend extra money, where does the money come from? And then they'd have to admit they fucked up. So it's that's the thing. If they just did it, and what's interesting to me is somebody at the studio thinks it's okay to have a product that is wrong out in the world. You guys put out a wrong product, and now you won't recall it, and they're hoping nobody makes enough of a mistake. I mean, this is the kind of thing.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
In the case of Rocky, why is that box set incomplete? I mean, what are you doing? And of course, nobody's going to mention it. Of course, people are going to mention it.
Right. Rocky. I don't know. It's bizarre. Thomas Logan says, R&B, are you spending $300 on eBay for the limited edition BFI The Exorcist 4K set? These boutique labels should combat scalpers by doing second runs. I wouldn't be surprised if they did a second run on that one. I wouldn't be surprised because they've done that before. But yeah, I'm not going to spend that much money on that because there's other boutique labels I would rather support with that cash. Stubble McShave says, I like the 6-part Star Wars ILM documentary on Disney+. It's the only way to see some of the prequel special features on streaming. Most of the special features will never be seen on digital. Yeah, one of the great special features is the Phantom Menace documentary on the making of that film. And where is that documentary? Where is it? It's not on the 4K. Why? I agree with you. Garfield's Bizarre Adventures says, hey, Rob, have you ever played D&D? You seem like the kind of guy who would dress up in a homemade costume and slay some dragons over dice. I used to play D&D a lot. I don't much anymore. But yeah, I'd be that guy. Vixter, our friend Vixter 5001 said, went to FOP in London today, the same owners as HMV, and I bought 10 4K discs. I love FOP, and it has sections for all the labels like Arrow, BFI, Mubi, 101, etc. etc. We didn't mention Mubi, but they put out Decision to Leave, which was great to get that film. Chan-wook Park's movie Decision to Leave. 200 Watt Studio says, wow, I like this new guy. Sayonara, Dieter. Dieter's coming back. By the way, Heath, tell the folks at home, where can they find you online? Because you have your own physical media channel that's fantastic, and everybody should watch and subscribe. So where can they find you?
Thank you so much. So I am serialatmidnight.com or youtube.com/serialatmidnight. Basically, if you look up Serial at Midnight, you will find me. I am everywhere.
Now, I like the title Serial at Midnight. Where did you come up with that? Does it have special meaning to you?
No, it doesn't. I was just trying to think of something that was unique and that was evocative of a certain mood. And as someone who has in my life historically been watching a monster movie or some cartoon or something at midnight with a bowl of cereal in my hand, I felt like a lot of people could probably relate to it.
Do you have a go-to cereal of choice?
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is my favorite. But you know what's interesting? This is the honest answer to that question. Is the older I get, I see myself gravitating more towards those healthier cereals that have like fiber and like less dyes and things in them because they just treat me better. You know what I mean?
My favorite cereal of all time, speaking to that end, is I love Frosted Mini Wheats, but I don't like the square Frosted Mini Wheats. I like the big tube Frosted Mini Wheats, and I like to take a really cold glass of milk and I dip them. At midnight, I dip them into the milk until what's hard is if you don't have like an open mason jar or something, it's hard when the milk gets down, it's harder to get to dip, so you have to turn it. It's a whole process, but that's my favorite cereal to eat at midnight. And it's harder and harder to find the Frosted Mini Wheats that aren't I don't like those because they get too soggy too quickly. You got to dip them in. So Dieter's coming back. Nicomedes Santiago says, Heath's presence today keeps the too much talent standard here intact. Well, that's why I wanted him here. He is too much talent. So I would never bring somebody who's a lesser commentator. You only have to bring the best here on Let's Get Physical Media. And Science Lady, our friend Science Lady, says, she gifted a Burnettwork membership. Thank you, Science Lady. 200 Watt Studio says, good luck to Dieter in his future endeavors. Looking forward to Let's Get Physical Media with Rob and Serial. Come on now. Serial's welcome back whenever he wants, but I want to have him here with Dieter next time. Irene Jobson, who's always bringing the dirty or the filthy to this channel. Irene, I appreciate that. She says, nice to meet you, Heath. Hi, Rob. When Irene says, nice to meet you, Heath, that's like getting the Good Housekeeping seal of approval.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much.
And our last super chat, Nicomedes Santiago says, the Warner Archive releases of Dr. X and Mystery of the Wax Museum were bonkers great. Yes. Now, Warners, let's have Bogart's turn in The Return of Dr. X. I would love that too, and maybe we'll get that. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, Heath, so we know where to find you. I'd love to have you come back to the show. I'm sorry I was a little angrier than usual on this channel today.
Oh, you're not normally that hot?
No.
It's fine. Listen, we should get hot about this stuff because we care about it, and we want to see the companies that make this stuff love it as much as we do. It's okay. It's a good thing.
Now, we'll ask you finally, what are some of the things are coming out that you're really excited for?
Oh, geez. Okay, so I am excited about what was you named a lot of it. Some of the stuff coming out from Viavision Imprint, the Umbrella stuff. Kino Lorber has announced a few things. You know what? Audie Murphy Collection 3.
Right.
I think this month. Isn't that coming out this month? I think 2 and 3 were coming out the same month. Anyway, I'm excited about that because I'm a huge Westerns fan.
Oh yeah, and and Kino Lorber's doing a lot.
Yeah, they're putting out a lot of Westerns. By the way, how does everybody watching this feel about Westerns? Because I've been, we're getting a lot of like spaghetti Westerns now too, which is exciting for me, but I love the American Westerns, and Kino Lorber is really, saddling up. I'm sorry, that's a bad pun, but they're really on board with classic Westerns. And I love that. I should mention, this is shameless, but I've talked to Frank Tarzi from Kino Lorber twice on my channel. He doesn't do a lot of interviews. He's come to my channel twice, and he has been really transparent about telling me some of the, like, oh, this worked, this didn't work, we won't be doing this again.
Oh.
Westerns seem to be doing all right for them, so I'm glad that I'm not on my own. I am really excited at the idea, because there's a ton of them, right? And every time I still have, like, I'll be scrolling through the antenna channels on my TV. It'll be something I've never even heard of. And I'm like, oh, is that on disc? And I, whip out my phone, and it's not. More often than not, it's
right.
Not. So there's still a long way to go with getting a lot of these things on disc. What else is coming out? It's a flood. I mean, every day is a flood. We are getting fire hosed with new releases.
No, we really are. And I just didn't know if there was like one, because for me, like, getting To Live and Die in LA was, but yeah. I really wanted Rosemary's Baby was a Grail disc for me. There is a Warner title that I can't say what it is. That's a Grail disc for me. That's coming out through another a long-time boutique retailer that I was surprised that I would like to see more of that happen. And I'm glad it's happening. I hope it happens by the end of the year. And also, George Feltenstein did tell me that the release of Freaks that's coming out via Criterion is the best that movie's ever looked by a wide margin.
That's great.
Which is terrific.
That's what we want.
Yeah, and I would like to see a lot of those genre titles. I mean, whether it's Outland or 2010 from Peter Hyams, whether it is Logan's Run or Forbidden Planet or Them, Warner Brothers has a ton of stuff, and it's my hope that hopefully Disney will get off the pot and put out a lot of the Fox material too. I mean, look, I dream of one day getting Zardoz. And by the way, where the hell's Excalibur? Where's the 4K of Excalibur? Where is it?
What is up with that?
It's the 100th anniversary of Warner Brothers, and if you're going to give it to Criterion, give it to Criterion. If you're not, don't. I mean, I want Excalibur. So does everybody else. If Paramount can put out fucking Dragon Slayer, which also came out in 1981. Why can't we have Excalibur? A lot more people would rather have Excalibur than Dragon Slayer, and I've got Dragon Slayer in a nice steelbook now. I mean, the genre, why the studios are not scouring their libraries for genre material, I don't know. I mean, even Coke put out Rollerball in a 5-disc set, which is amazing in Germany. It's
Yeah.
I mean, you can get it from Arrow and stuff, but Arrow knows. And by the way, I want to give a shout out to Scream Factory. You know, sometimes when they've had spotty releases in the past or something happened with Friday the 13th and they had to replace a disc or whatever, they've been killing it. That Creepshow disc with the reversible cover, all the special features, the transfer they did, they got that from Warner Brothers. It looks spectacular. And I think sometimes we forget that Scream Factory has put out a lot of amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And they continue to do so.
They do. Yeah.
Well, Heath, I want to thank you for coming on Let's Get Physical Media. This has been fun. I got more heated than I normally do, which I apologize for again. But it was great to have you. I hope you'll come back when DIETER is here. You know,
I would love it. Thank you so much for the invitation. This was a blast, and I have a lot of admiration for you too. So to get the opportunity was pretty special. I appreciate it.
well, I think that what I would like to do in the future, I would like to contact Charles Band and have him come on, and we would all talk to Charlie. And I think he'll do
Let's
it.
do it.
Especially because that box set, that Empire box set, is pretty great.
Yeah.
He might not. He'll be the first person to be like, I might not like all the interviews, but that's okay. He'll be happy that because he made some money on that. So, all right, sir. Well, I will let you go once again. Heath from Serial at Midnight. Follow him, like him, comment, and it was great to have you here, sir.
Thank you. It was great to be here. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
And thanks for being here. It was great. Well, everyone, I say goodbye to Heath. It was fantastic to have him here. I hope you enjoyed that. And we've still got a few things to go through. But yeah, this was fun. And hey, I really appreciate him accepting my invitation. 200 Watt Studio says, a fire hose of new releases every week, as Heath said. That's what she said. That's what Irene Jobson would say. Diano says, I sent you an email for a site which has a pre-order for the Exorcist Ultimate Collector's Edition 4K UHD. The Ultimate Collector's Edition is different than the one with the BFI book in it. So, but I appreciate that. I will definitely go look for that. So I will look. Thomas Logan says, Volume 4, what movie do you screen for Shaddam IV, Christopher Walken? Pasolini's Solo, or, and I can never pronounce his name, but a Serbian film. He demands a brief intro into the film you pick. You know what? That's an interesting choice. I probably would show him Solo before I'd show him a Serbian film, because I'd give him a little bit too much. I'd have to give him more backstory on a Serbian film. But I think Solo would be it, because I think there's, look, a Serbian film's a little, it's funny because I've been talking about it with our French house guests. Yeah, I think Solo has a little bit more upscale. At least I could justify it with a little bit more upscale analysis. So that's what I would say. By the way, I do own both of those on Blu-ray. So I do have a Serbian film. Not proud, but I have it. So that's true. Now I wanted to just deal with really quickly while we're going on. We got disc sales figures. Of course, Media Play News. I did steal this. So UHD 13%, Blu-ray 31%, and DVD by a wide margin is still selling 55% of all physical media, and that was the week ending July 22nd. So check that out. In terms of top sellers for the week, hang on here. Let me. Heath is gone, so I will delete that. And so here we go. Top sellers for this week. This is top 20 sellers totally. Super Mario Brothers the movie, John Wick Chapter 4, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Last of Us, the complete first season, Scream 6, Kandahar, Sisu, Book Club: The Next Chapter, Love Again, and Knights of the Zodiac. So there you go. And then the top 20 selling Blu-ray and 4K discs. These are the top selling Blu-rays. John Wick Chapter 4, Super Mario Brothers the movie, The Last of Us the complete first season, Avatar The Way of Water, Scream 6, Sisu, Kandahar, One Piece film Red, Heat. That's interesting that Heat is selling. I wonder why. Are people going back and buying the old Blu-ray because they don't like the color timing on the 4K? And then Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. And then finally, the top 20 selling 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray discs. So this is 4K, The Last of Us, John Wick, Scream, Heat. Oh, that's selling too. There must be a reason why Heat is selling all of a sudden. I don't know. Super Mario Brothers the movie, Avatar The Way of Water, Sisu, Hugo, the new one from Arrow, Alita Battle Angel, back in the news because they might make a sequel, and the Dark Knight trilogy from Warner Brothers. So that's interesting. You got to love that. And then I think I went through all the news of all the discs. We showed all the discs that I wanted to point out for the week. So that's kind of, that's exciting. And I don't know, do I have more? We're caught up on everybody and all your comments. 200 Watt Studio says, what is the difference between the imprint edition of Outrage and Kino Lorber's? That's a good question. I don't know. I just got it, so I haven't actually cracked it open. There is audio commentary by film historian Imogene Sarah Smith, but I don't know if that's on the original. But it is on this one. Maybe it is on the original. But they might have just got the license and decided to release it. And remember, imprint is Australia, and Kino Lorber is here domestic. So there might be something. There might be something going on there. I don't know. But this is actually a really great movie. So if you've never seen this, it's really interesting. And Ida Lupino directed it. So definitely worth getting. You didn't have many women directors working back in the 50s. And it's great to have this. So again, Kino Lorber once again with the history of cinema, which you have to love. Wait, on the bottom of the chat, I'm looking at this. Eucalyptus says that Rob is such a girl dinner. I think that girls are my dessert. Or full meal, I guess, depending on what you want to do. So Eucalyptus, actually Eucalyptus. Eucalyptus? I like that. Thanks for that, I think. And then Justin Toner says Barnes & Noble has a 50% off sale on Arrow titles going on right now in stores and on their website. That is interesting. Thing about Arrow is some titles are not available domestically, which is a bummer. So, yeah, there is that. And on that note, I guess, folks, I can bring this to a close. I don't have the live chat recap of last week. So I hope that's not something that you guys are upset about. But I want to thank... Actually, you know what else I wanted to do read since I have it here? I do want to read the rest of this Bill Hunt editorial. And I think I'm going to read it. Just because I can. Because I didn't want to... So I stopped... Here's where I stopped. And let me go... Okay, now this is all about Disney. Now, there's something that I wanted to say. Like, I still buy 3D titles. I ordered Guardians of the Galaxy 3, or Volume 3, from Japan so I could get the 3D disc. Disney, I have all of the Marvel titles that were released in 3D domestically, and now I've had to go overseas, specifically to Japan, to get them. And that is unfortunate. Now, this thing that I want to read now, is important. Now, let me get down to where I wanted to start because this is interesting. Now, hang on. So as not to lay all the grief at the feet of the brothers Garner, however, let's move on to another major Hollywood studio. We'll call this Walt Disney. Now, here's a studio that's really spent the last several years convincing avid consumers of physical media that they make inferior 4K UHD product. Not only do they refuse to include Dolby Vision HDR on any of their discs, to the extent that they actually had it removed on a later pressing of one of their Space Wars titles, they intentionally squeeze every 4K title onto UHD 66 discs just to save a buck, when most of the films in question would greatly benefit from UHD 100 discs instead. So as to actually deliver a premium product. The result is 4K video that appears lifeless and overcompressed compared to similar titles from other studios. And not content to compromise its 4K video quality alone, the same studio also deliberately takes the Dolby Atmos mixes it includes on its discs and waters them down by weakening the bass and dynamic range to create milquetoast sonic experiences targeted to casual streaming customers watching on mobile devices, rather than the avid home theater fans who constitute the bulk of the 4K format's customer base. Strangely, Walt Disney does this even on their biggest and best titles, including over 30 marvelous cinematic universe titles, unless specifically tasked to actually do a good job with the 4K format by a filmmaker with the power to command it. Thank you, James Cameron. So whereas 4K Ultra HD should always be a premium product, and the format's most avid fans and relatable customers expect it to be a premium product, good old Walt Disney considers its streaming service to be the real premium, which would be great if streaming was actually profitable. But as we all know, that isn't the case, and it's not ever going to be the case. More on that in a minute. But now every 4K Ultra HD customer on the planet knows that this studio sells low-quality discs for a premium price. So the 4K team at Walt Disney has tarnished the reputation of their own and once highly regarded home entertainment brand. Okay, you know what? Enough of the pussyfooting around. I'll just say it's Disney. Now, imagine that I understand you've started a streaming service and you want to have your the streaming service to provide the quality of product to get people to just watch your streaming service. Disney never wanted anyone to own their movies. The way they used to make their money back in the day was they would release their product in theaters over and over again, so every new generation could experience their movies. Hell, they released Song of the South in theaters in 1986. They haven't done it since, but they did. And that was a film then that was over 40 years old, or around 40 years old. So that's how they made their money. So Disney, Walt Disney, that used to have, under Bob Chapek, used to have an incredible home video division. When I was working for Disney at the time, I worked on Snow White, I worked on Emperor's New Groove, I worked on Tron, I worked on Atlantis, I worked on the Fantasia Anthology. When I was working the Toy Story Ultimate Toy Box Set, when we were working at Curdy Pellerin on Disney DVDs, they were the best DVDs in the business, the best special features, the best transfers, the best everything. So Disney, in an effort to dissuade people from buying physical media, they still put out 4K discs. They wouldn't put them out IMAX enhanced. They would not put them out, as Bill Hunt said, on discs that had 4K, the 100 discs. They put them on 66 megabyte discs instead. I think it's megabyte, right, on 4K. But they actually, to dissuade people from buying them, made their product less good, in a nutshell. Why would anybody do that? Well, Disney did that, and their streaming service is in the toilet, and people are buying their discs, and they're not getting a good product. What business does that? What business would actually want to sell a business that was once proud of their physical media releases? Certainly when I worked there, they were. And instead, they released an inferior product. I mean, literally an inferior product to the consumer market. Why would you do that? In what business manual, and what if I went to Harvard Business School, would it tell me to do that? I would hope not. But somebody who went to Harvard Business School agreed to do that. It's really insane that that's the case. And I can't believe that's true. Now, this is really interesting. Bill Hunt goes on to say, what happened to this industry? It didn't used to be this way. Well, of course, we know exactly what happened. The major Hollywood studios put all their chips in the streaming business, let their reliably profitable physical media operations waste away, and suffered a series of disastrous mergers and acquisitions. They fired everyone on staff who knew anything about the physical media business or even their own film catalogs. They lost a wealth of institutional knowledge, and now most of the genuinely good and well-meaning folks who are left are scared for their jobs and are just doing their best to get by, essentially trying to fake it until they make it. And their employers are praying that digital is going to save them. It may have escaped Hollywood's notice, but there are only about 124 million TV households in the U.S. Many of them don't subscribe to digital streaming services. Of course, those that do, most only subscribe to a handful at a time, and they tend to turn services on and off regularly, a habit known in the industry as churn, to enjoy only the occasional content they want, rather than subscribing long term. It also may have escaped Hollywood's notices, though we've long been trying to warn them otherwise, that once a customer abandons physical media, you've lost them forever. Let us explain. When you offer an avid physical media consumer a new version of one of their favorite films on disc, and you give them a genuine reason to upgrade, say with notably better AV quality, new special features, and deluxe packaging, they might spend $40 to $50 to do so. But once that person has abandoned physical media and spent $9 to buy their favorite film in 4K digital, they will likely never buy it again. See where we're going here? By pushing your customers toward digital and kneecapping your physical media business, you're essentially killing your own profit model. The goal is to sell movies to customers, right? And don't look to new generations of movie fans to save you. They don't care about loyalty to your brand. They're not spending money building large movie collections, and most of their time and attention is focused on compelling video games and YouTube content. Don't count on international customers to save you either. That might work for a little while, but eventually that market is going to evaporate too. And pinning all your hopes on customers that don't share your values and censoring your content to appease them in the meantime is both ill-advised and begging for trouble. Nor will AI save you. Nobody wants to watch soulless content written and produced and directed with no actual human artists in the loop. On that topic, how about paying your talent a living wage rather than playing an endless bookkeeping shell game with them? You should be giving them an equity stake in your studios and productions, not trying to exploit their creative work in perpetuity without just compensation, especially when you keep coming back to movie fans hat in hand to give you money for said content. But we digress. The bottom line is that the state of physical media with studios like Garner Brothers and Walt Disney is currently a bit depressing, especially for those who appreciate the 4K Ultra HD format. Thankfully, though, there are great indie distributors like Kino Lorber, Shout and Scream Factory, Arrow Video, Vinegar Syndrome, Synapse, Criterion, Imprint, Indicator, Blue Underground, the 3D Film Archive, and more, like 101 and 88 Films, and Studio Canal and Curzon, and all the other people that are making this stuff possible. Radiance. Kino Lorber Studio Classics, for example, includes Dolby Vision HDR on nearly every 4K title they release. They include remastered Blu-rays in almost every 4K package as well. By the way, they also included a second disc in their Needful Things 4K with the TV cut of Needful Things in it. And I like Needful Things. You might not like the movie in general, but as a Stephen King adaptation, I think it's a great adaptation of the book. The book I thought was too long. It needed to be edited, but the movie is pretty good, and it's a very faithful translation of the novel. And it's got the TV version, so go Kino Lorber. Also, and they carry their legacy special features over, as many as possible. Their packaging uses original poster artwork, and they also use triple-layered UHD 100 discs for almost every 4K title, ensuring the highest possible video quality. I would love to look at Kino Lorber's books because I would like to learn from them and find out how this business model is working for them, because God bless them. you're doing something right, or you're doing something right for somebody, but it's good for me as the consumer, and I love you for it. So God bless you, Kino Lorber. You're putting out Staying Alive on 4K UHD Blu-ray, probably on 100 discs, so hey. Kino Lorber Studio Classics has even quietly been reissuing some of their older Blu-ray titles, which had been released originally on BD25 discs on BD50s to improve the HD image with less compression. That's what dedication to quality on physical media looks like. And on the occasions that they do make a mistake, these indie distributors almost always make a sincere effort to acknowledge it, correct it, and make their customers whole with fixed discs. So the question is, if indie distributors can do this, why the hell can't Garner Brothers and Walt Disney? And even more important, the question is, if major Hollywood studios like Garner Brothers and Walt Disney can no longer care passionately about the quality of their own physical media product, why the hell should anyone else? You need to do better, Garner Brothers. You need to do better, Walt Disney. You need to do better, major Hollywood studios. Your longtime and loyal 4K Ultra HD and Blu-ray customers definitely deserve a lot better than you've been giving them. We know it's hard, especially when your budgets have been slashed, your staffs have been gutted, and one pirate-like studio boss or media conglomerate parent company after another has treated you like the bastard child of the family. But you need to do better. We want you to do better. Hell, we're rooting for you, and we'd gleefully or gladly sing your praises from the rooftops. We would too, by the way. But you've been making it so very hard these last few years. Thus, we've offered you this gentle reminder. Consider it a friendly and loving nudge of encouragement in the right direction. We know you can do better. Please do. Once again, that comes from Bill Hunt at the Digital Bits. And as an aside, I just want to say, not all of Warner Brothers deserves your scorn. Warner UK has done a phenomenal job with what they can do with catalog titles and the things that they've released. We saw Heath bring out that Casablanca box set, the Citizen Kane box set they put out. Stunning. They had a hand in that. And that Exorcist box set that is sold out, and there's multiple versions of it, but that one that comes with the BFI book, amazing. It's amazing. And maybe because of what the movie means to me personally, I probably would drop the green on that if I have to buy it in the secondary market because scalpers picked it up. But I would implore them to do a reissue and just make more. I don't care what pressing it is. I just want that big box set sitting on my shelf because that would make me happy. Anyway, so thanks. Thank you, Bill Hunt. And 200 Watt Studio says, I have the imprint, no Imogen Sarah Smith. Is it good? I need to get that. Thomas Logan says, are you watching Oppenheimer in 1570 IMAX? I don't know. We have house guests here from, I know you're sending me places to go see it. We have house guests from France that we're entertaining. They're leaving tomorrow. So I haven't been able to do anything in regards to seeing Oppenheimer or Barbie. Irene Jobson says, what is your guilty pleasure physical media purchase? Probably the box set of the 4 taboo porn movies. I knew you'd like that. That one's specifically for you, which I did buy from Vinegar Syndrome. Vinegar Syndrome puts out a lot of 70s bush porn, and I'm a fan of that. Whether it's softcore or hardcore, stuff like Barbara Broadcast or the Days and Nights of Pamela Man, I love that stuff. It's very different than the stuff today, unfortunately, but I'm probably guilty that I bought that. Science Lady says, are you still going to Germany and the rest of Europe? I'm trying to figure that down, lock that down. If I do that, you'll know in the next week or two. I'm trying to figure out if I should crowdfund a trip like that, if it would be me worth it or people get mad at me. I might. Guy Newby said, I'm looking forward to 7 on 4K. Fincher will show Disney how you do it. He's working on it now. Fight Club and The Game next, please. Oh, I totally agree. I mean, Fincher was talking about going back and looking at that Fight Club. I mean, the 7 disc. I can't wait to get that. I can't wait to get all of Fincher's movies, but absolutely right, 100%. 100%. Adventure Square says, here's hoping more people ask for physical media releases in the future, and this influences the current studio approach. Well, look, I think that as many people pointed out, they were hoping to push people toward physical media. That's what they wanted to do. And it didn't really, pardon me, the opposite. They wanted to push people away from physical media to streaming. That's what they wanted to do. I apologize for getting that one wrong. And it didn't happen the way that they wanted it to. But I think the younger generation, when they find out, if you become a horror fan, they're delving into things. I mean, with all the reaction videos you see with younger people, I think people that are younger are going to find out, and they're going to want to collect these things. I mean, they're going to want to do that. By the way, 5 Dot Toast says, Robin Heath, are y'all optimistic for a 4K release of Pee-wee's Big Adventure in the wake of Paul Rubin's passing? I'm immensely sad that there won't be another Pee-wee movie. What an artist. I'd be ecstatic if I could get Dolby Atmos for that. There might be. But again, Pee-wee Herman, remember, in certain circles is canceled for things that he did. So, yeah, I hope not. I hope they put it out, because I'm a big Pee-wee fan, so I would love to see that. Sheriff Carl says, you guys are fucking rad. Wondering if you guys have a favorite concert film you'd love to have on Blu-ray or 4K. For me, I want all the Iron Maiden. Also, will we ever get Conan the Barbarian in 4K? Come on, Universal, what the fuck? I love the work you both do. Sheriff Carl, I hope the Pacific Northwest is good. Why Conan the Barbarian is not on 4K is beyond me. I have no idea. In terms of concert stuff, I think Stop Making Sense. I mean, I would like to get, because I'm a Prince fan, I'd love to get Sign of the Times in 4K. I've got an Australian version of it, and I have a Japanese version of it. But I'd love to get that in 4K as far as concert films go. So that for me. And I would love to get Pink Floyd The Wall in 4K. The movie. It's not the concert, but the movie. 100%. 5 Toast says, cheers, Robin Heath. Do you think it's possible that the future might give rise to hybrid streaming services that synchronize to physical discs, but have the stream included non-sub-sampled chroma channels? The full-res Luma would come from the disc. That's a really... You know what? I think that would just be too difficult to do. Look, eventually the pipes are going to get bigger. They're going to have less compression. Right now, everything has to be compressed because of the size and the amount of stuff that's being pushed through, whether they're fiber or not. I mean, it's unfortunately, things are different, and I wish they weren't. But, in terms of, look, I hope, the reason that I'm optimistic about, I'd like to get 4Ks. I don't know if Edward Scissorhands in 4K, but I would like to get a lot of Tim Burton movies in 4K. I would love to get Pee-wee's Big Adventure in 4K. And by the way, that should have been part of Warner Brothers' 100th anniversary. It was Tim Burton's first feature film for the studio. They have a long legacy. Why that wasn't on the list? Somebody probably said, "Oh, Pee-wee Herman's a controversial figure. He's canceled." Yeah, well, now it's too late to get him to do a new commentary or something, which is really upsetting. So, yeah, it's really upsetting. Adventure Square said, I'm hoping more people ask for physical media releases in the future, and this influences the current studio approach. Look, I think it would, but the studios, they have these agendas. What's interesting is the marketing. The reason, let's be clear, the reason the studios wanted to go streaming, and I understand it, with streaming services, if you have, say, 100 million people subscribe at $15 a month, that's $1.5 billion of monthly cash flow coming in. The studios never had that before. It was always a crapshoot, always hit and miss. And the studios, in the case of Disney, they take all of their library, which they're used to making money re-releasing occasionally in drips and drabs. You put it all in one place, and everybody goes and pays their $15 a month. But now with all the different streaming services, if Disney there's not that much new programming. If you've already gone through Disney's catalog, and you do if you have kids, you go through quickly, people are like, well, we don't need Disney streaming anymore. What is new there? If you look at the volume of material that's dropped on Netflix every week compared to what's going out on Disney, what's the better value? And of course, people, once they watch things, are going to drop out here, drop out there. So I totally understand it. The studios did not necessarily take this kind of thing into consideration because, it was new. But anyone could have told them, just because you're going to sign up for Disney every month doesn't mean you're going to keep it. And you're going to keep it you'll keep it for a couple months, catch up on what you missed, drop it, and come back later. So, yeah. Science Lady says, if you go next year, most of us will be able to help. You mean in 2024? Maybe. The only reason I was thinking about going in October was because Tango Shalom is opening there, and I could do press or some things like that, so we'll have to see. Irene Jobson says, I love lamp. What is lamp? L-A-M-P. Is that a euphemism? I don't know. Is that something because you like to rub a lamp to see if there's a genie inside? I'm not sure. Michael Lynch says, give me back my Dieter. Enough of this douchey man. Sorry, someone had to say it. No hard feelings. I know you're a Dieter supporter, but I think Heath was great. I loved him. It was great having him on, and I can't recommend his channel highly enough. I really can't. And on that note, everyone, I'll know more about next week about whether coming to Europe is an option and all of that. So I want to thank you for coming on this Dieterless episode of Let's Get Physical Media. It felt kind of lonely without him, but you know what? I thought Heath acquitted himself admirably, not that he needed to acquit himself. Manowar 665 Neighbor of the Beast says, still holding out for the Keep Director's Cut in 4K. Will not listen to the lies that this doesn't exist, complete with Michael Mann hate watch commentary. Okay, all I can tell you is that I asked Michael Mann at a screening of Thief at the Arrow Theater directly about this movie. He has no interest. Straight from the horse's mouth. He has no interest. And it kills me as much as it kills you. And I'm sad for that. But I'm just, don't shoot the messenger. That's what he told me. I know. I don't know what to say, but that's all I can say. And next here, 200 Watt Studio says, did you say, or wait, it was right. I was right here where he was talking about, did I say Phase 4 Special Edition? Why, yes, I did. Phase 4 Special Edition here. I will drop the link in the chat. It's sold out, but hey, you can find it. You can find anything. But yes, there's the special edition of Phase 4. It's a pretty great special edition. If I do say, not to rub it in, but if I do say so myself, it's there. So now you have the link. And you can find it. And so there we are. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, gentle beings, kind souls, however you identify across these 28 known galaxies, I want to thank you for being here for Let's Get Physical Media, episode 117. I want to thank my guest, Heath, Serial at Midnight, for coming on. Thank you very much. I want to thank people like Tom Jr. Jackson and Lord Toth. I saw Lord Toth was here. I want to thank you both for moderating. I want to thank you all. I want to thank Dieter Bastian for being a great compatriot, even though I'm not here. Justin Toner also moderated, so thank you, Justin. I appreciate that. And, yeah, Dieter will be back. Same bat time, same bat channel. And I will be broadcasting from the other side of this room where my physical media collection is. So I've now got lights and all that over there. So I'll have my physical media in the background. Woo! I know it only took me 118 episodes, but hey, better late than never. And remember, every person you meet has a story to tell that you have yet to hear. And all you have to do is listen. And with that, I would say to all of you, have a better day, buy more discs.